Chapter 5802. Under normal circumstances, the two could use the communication bead to contact each other. In order to prevent special situations, Lin Yi and Languza agreed not to use the communication bead at sea, and then let him leave Zhongdao. After returning to Tiandan Pavilion, Lin Yi began to refine the 6th and 7th grade elixirs. On the one hand, it was for Tiandan Pavilion to sell, and on the other hand, it was also to prepare for the auction. Of course, if he wanted to use elixirs to raise the funds to buy the spirit-gathering branch and the soul-nourishing wood, the 6th and 7th grade elixirs were probably not enough. Although the Thunder Xian pill was precious, if he wanted to buy treasures like the spirit-gathering branch and the soul-nourishing wood with it, it must be accumulated in quantity. Lin Yi did not want to refine all his Thunder Xian Rattan into Thunder Xian pill and then exchange it for the spirit-gathering branch and the soul-nourishing wood. It was too wasteful. The best way, of course, was to refine the first-grade elixirs of the soul-nourishing wood. For example, the solid earth pill, which could be used by the earth-opening stage, or the mountain-gazing pill, which was used to comprehend the breakthrough of the mysterious ascending stage to the mountain-opening stage. It was a pity that although Lin Yi had the prescriptions of these two elixirs, he did not have the materials to refine them. The preciousness of these materials was indeed incomparable to the spirit-gathering branch and the soul-nourishing wood, but it was more precious and rare than the Thunder Xian Rattan. After a night of refining elixirs, Lin Yi handed all the elixirs to Tian Chan. However, he heard that Shanghai Laner was picked up by Tian Chan last night. It seemed that there was something urgent. Originally, Shanghai Laner was going to say goodbye to Lin Yi, but she heard that he was refining elixirs in seclusion, so she did not disturb him. She directly followed Ram Jia, who came to pick her up, back to the North Island. Hearing that the person who came was Ram Jia, Lin Yi was not worried that Shanghai Laner would be in danger. In the whole North Island, except for Tian Chan, Ram Jia was probably the last person who would hurt Shanghai Laner. He did not know what happened in the North Island that made Tian Chan take Lan Air back so urgently. Lin Yi thought that when he passed the North Island this time, he must go and have a look, but now he could only put it aside. If Tian Chan needed his help, Ram Jia should wait for him to come out. Since he did not say anything, it meant that the matter was not urgent enough for Lin Yi to help. Seeing that there was no change in Han Jingjing, Lin Yi went out again and went to Alchemy Hall to look for Ho Guanqi. Ho Guanqi had taken the initiative to go to the auction in the far North Island, so he was also packing at the moment. He was a little surprised by Lin Yi's sudden visit. "Brother Lin, why do you suddenly come to me?" Ho Guanqi greeted him with a smile. If everything went well, they would be on the boat together tonight. Now that Lin Yi came, it must be for something. Lin Yi smiled and cupped his fists, saying, "Brother Ho, I took the liberty to visit you. Don't you welcome me?" "How could it be? You are a rare guest that I can't even invite. Come in and sit down." Ho Guanqi laughed and pulled Lin Yi in. After asking someone to serve spiritual tea, he asked, "Brother, you are not here just to chat with me, are you?" "Chatting is also one of my goals, but I still have something I need Brother Ho's help with." Lin Yi did not stand on ceremony and revealed his purpose with a smile. "It's like this. I came this time to ask Brother Ho if there are any mountain-gazing stones in the alchemy hall. If there are, can you sell some to me? Brother Lin wants to refine the mountain-gazing pill. With your cultivation, you really should get ready." Ho Guanqi was slightly startled, but then he felt relieved. Lin Yi was already at the peak of the late stage of mysterious ascension. It was normal for him to prepare to comprehend the mountain-gazing pill of the mountain-opening stage in advance. The name mountain-gazing stone sounded like a stone, but it was actually a type of spirit fruit. It was just that its appearance was very similar to a stone, so it had such a name. To be precise, it should be called mountain-gazing fruit. However, this mountain-gazing fruit was extremely rare, much more precious than the lightning Xian vine. Even the alchemy hall might not have it. Lin Yi was just asking with the mentality of trying it out. He didn't really expect to get the mountain-gazing stone. Unexpectedly, Hou Guanqi nodded. If it's mountain-gazing stones, the alchemy hall does have some in reserve. This thing was left behind by my master, and other than him, no one else would use it. There should be 2 left. Lin Yi was delighted. He didn't think that the alchemy hall would actually have mountain-gazing stones. As expected of the pill god Zhang Liju's territory, there were many good things. As for 2 mountain-gazing stones, that was definitely enough. Lin Yi knew that 1 stone was enough for him to refine 5 to 6 mountain-gazing pills. As long as he could get 1, he wouldn't have to worry about not having enough spirit jades for the future auctions. Brother Hou, I wonder if this mountain-gazing stone of the alchemy hall can be transferred to me. How many spirit stones do you need? Just tell me. Lin Yi didn't hide his desire for the mountain-gazing stone. If it were someone else, of course, he wouldn't speak like this, but since it was Hou Guanqi, it didn't matter. He wouldn't raise the price to Lin Yi no matter what. Hou Guanqi hesitated for a moment before saying with a bitter smile, Brother Lin, if it's my own, there's no harm in giving these 2 mountain-gazing stones to you. However, you also know that this isn't mine. Instead, it's something that Master left in the pill hall as a reserve. If there's someone in our pill hall who can refine the mountain-gazing pill, it's fine to use it, Lin Yi understood immediately. If he wanted to use the mountain-gazing stone to refine the pill, he first had to become a disciple of the alchemy hall. As for how they used the resources and what they needed to trade, that wasn't important. He wasn't even a disciple of the alchemy hall, so it was impossible for him to get the mountain-gazing stone. Seeing Lin Yi's disappointed look, Hou Guanqi gritted his teeth and said, Brother Lin, if you were to refine the mountain-gazing pill, how confident are you? Lin Yi was slightly startled. Although he hadn't refined the mountain-gazing pill before, it wasn't that the Shenong Cauldron hadn't refined a first-grade profound rank pill before. It shouldn't be too difficult to refine it. If it was only 1 furnace, the success rate couldn't be guaranteed. If it was 2 furnaces, the success rate wouldn't fluctuate much after the correction. Brother Hou, the mountain-gazing pill is a first-grade profound rank pill. I think the success rate is more than 60%. Lin Yi casually said a conservative number. Then, his eyes lit up. Could it be that Brother Hou has a way for me to refine the mountain-gazing pill? Chapter 5803. I see. Lin Yi was impressed by this rule, and of course, he was even more impressed by Zhang Liju, who had set up this store. High-level treasures might not have much of a circulation, but low-level herbs were enough for most disciples to have to worry about not having enough ingredients to concoct pills. With this rule in place, the storehouse would only get bigger and bigger. It was a pity that Hou Guanqi wasn't a mystic first-level refiner, and he didn't have the right to exchange for the mountain-gazing stone. Lin Yi didn't know what he was talking about. Hou Guanqi didn't want to keep him in suspense. He continued speaking to Lin Yi, with my identity in the hall, I can use a mountain-gazing stone to concoct a pills. Of course, the rule is that I have to exchange with something of equal value, or exchange with points. That's not a problem. The problem is that while I can exchange for it, I have to return the corresponding pill first. Lin Yi understood instantly. No wonder Hou Guanqi asked him about his chances of success. If he couldn't guarantee success, then Hou Guanqi wouldn't be able to return the pill, and that would cause problems. Brother Hou, how many pills do you need for a mountain-gazing stone to complete the task? And what should I use to exchange for it? Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't make things difficult for Hou Guanqi. As long as he could concoct the mountain-gazing pill, Lin Yi believed that his Shenong Cauldron would be able to concoct more than what he needed. Hou Guanqi smiled, don't worry about the exchange, I'll take care of that. As for the mountain-gazing pill, it'll be good enough if we can return one to the hall, we don't need many. After all, it's not easy to concoct the mountain-gazing pill, and you have a 60% chance of success. One mountain-gazing stone should be able to concoct 2 or 3 pills, right? Lin Yi calmed down. 5 sets of ingredients, and the Shenong cauldron might be able to concoct 7 mountain-gazing pills. Other than the uncertainty of the first attempt, Lin Yi estimated that he would have at least 4 or 5, and giving Ho Guanqi 2 would be no problem. In actuality, Ho Guanqi was a bit worried. What he didn't tell Lin Yi was that if he failed to apply for resources beyond his level, he'd have to pay double the penalty, and he wouldn't be able to go to the storage for 2 years to trade for materials, especially if the materials he traded weren't for his own use. The consequences were even more serious. Helping Lin Yi this time, Ho Guanqi was indeed taking a huge risk. He might be Zhang Liju's disciple, but making a mistake like this in the Hall of Elixirs still wasn't something he could talk about. If Lin Yi knew about this, he wouldn't have asked Ho Guanqi to get the mountain-gazing stone for himself. He'd rather sell all the lightning Xian vine than let Ho Guanqi get into trouble. Brother Ho, please rest assured, a mountain-gazing pill is absolutely not a problem. As for the materials to be exchanged, I really don't have anything that can compare to the mountain-gazing stone. I wonder if this piece of spiritual sense grass root can do it. Lin Yi took out a flat jade box he'd prepared, and in it was a palm-sized and 2-finger-thick spirit grass. He passed it to Ho Guanqi casually, thinking that this should be more than enough to exchange for the mountain-gazing stone, right? After all, the spirit grass's ability to refine one's spirit ignored levels, even Earth opening level could use it. Ho Guanqi's face changed, and he quickly took it with both hands. After opening the jade box, he cried out in shock, "It really is the legendary spirit grass root." Although he hadn't seen the spirit grass root before, the waves of mysterious aura that was enough to cause spirit ripples made him completely sure that this was the legendary spirit grass root. Brother Lin, where did you get this kind of treasure? Such a big piece of spirit grass root, not to mention 1 mountain-gazing stone, even 10 mountain-gazing stones wouldn't be enough to exchange for it. Ho Guanqi closed the jade box excitedly, wanting to return it to Lin Yi, but he seemed reluctant. Brother Ho, you know about the spirit grass root. Although it's very good to use the spirit grass root to refine the spirit grass root, it's not enough to exchange for 10 mountain-gazing stones, right? Lin Yi looked at Ho Guanqi strangely. He didn't know why the spirit grass root made him so excited. This was just a small piece that he casually cut off, and he was already so excited. If Ho Guanqi saw the entire spirit grass root in the jade pendant space, wouldn't he faint directly? Brother Lin, you didn't directly use the spirit grass root to refine the spirit grass root, right? Ho Guanqi looked at Lin Yi with a sluggish face. His eyes were full of the look of looking at a prodigal son. Lin Yi said in his heart, weren't we talking about the mountain-gazing stone? Why are we getting further and further away from the spirit grass root? But looking at Ho Guanqi's expression, Lin Yi also wanted to know, the spirit grass root wasn't directly used to refine the spirit, was there any other use? Brother Ho, I did directly use the spirit grass root to refine the spirit, is there anything wrong with it? In terms of alchemy knowledge, Lin Yi really couldn't compare to Ho Guanqi. Although he had Zhang Liju's alchemy notes, it was only compiled in the secular world. The basic theory was indeed incomparably strong. In other aspects, until now, it has slowly become insufficient. After Ho Guanqi heard Lin Yi's words, he was simply heartbroken. Hey, Brother Lin, it's not that I want to criticize you. You are already a mystic-class alchemy master. How can you do such a reckless thing? The spirit grass root is a legendary treasure. You actually used it directly to refine the spirit. It's simply too wasteful. Haven't you heard of the spirit tempering pill? Lin Yi suddenly blushed. His title as a mystic-class alchemy master really didn't live up to the name. If there was no Han Jingjing, he wouldn't be able to refine the pill at all. As for what the spirit tempering pill was, he really hadn't heard of it. Ho Guanqi sighed, And without waiting for Lin Yi to speak, he continued, I can't blame you for not knowing, although the spirit tempering pill recipe is still circulated, but the spirit grass and spirit grass root have long been extinct in the Heavenly Island, so this spirit tempering pill is now not heard by many people, plus the Heavenly Island doesn't pay too much attention to the cultivation of the spirit, saying that the spirit tempering pill has been lost doesn't matter. Brother Ho, you mean, the spirit grass root can be refined into the spirit tempering pill? And the effect is even better than directly using the spirit grass root to refine the spirit? Lin Yi has already understood, and his heart was also a little regretful. It seems that when there is nothing to do, he still needs to collect more elixir recipes and alchemy books, otherwise the next time he gets a treasure, it will be wasted in vain. Chapter 5804. Ho Guanqi sighed again and said, It's more than just excellent. Your spiritual awareness grassroots can be divided into at least 30 or 40 portions of spirit tempering pill's main material. If you directly use these spiritual awareness grassroots to quench your divine sense, then after refining the spirit tempering pill, there will be at least 50 to 60% of the effect. You should be able to understand the difference, right? Lin Yi was suddenly shocked. He knew how many spiritual awareness grassroots he had wasted. Although there were still a lot of spiritual awareness grassroots in the space of the jade pendant, it was inevitable that he would feel some pain. Ho Guanqi said that there were 30 or 40 portions of materials here, then the Shinong cauldron could at least refine 40 or 50 spirit tempering pills. Wouldn't the effect be even stronger? However, thinking that without the spiritual awareness grassroots to quench his divine sense, he would not be able to integrate it so smoothly in the ancient small Jianghu, his heart calmed down a lot. Anyway, there were so many spiritual awareness grassroots, it didn't matter if he used some. One more point is the most important. Directly using the spiritual awareness grassroots to quench the divine sense is a very painful thing. Brother Lin, I really admire you for being able to persist. If you use the spirit tempering pill, this pain can be reduced at least 10 times. Ho Guanqi gave a thumbs up to Lin Yi, apparently really admired Lin Yi for being able to endure such pain. Lin Yi suddenly did not know whether to laugh or cry, really uncultured, really terrible. It turned out that the pain of quenching the divine sense could be completely avoided. He thought that it was necessary to experience it in order to become stronger, but the result was not the case at all. Ho Guanqi calmed his mood and handed the jade box to Lin Yi and said, Brother Lin, this thing is too precious, it is not worth exchanging it for the mountain-gazing stone, you should keep it. Even if you want to exchange, 1/10 of the size is enough. Lin Yi did not take the jade box and directly pushed it back and said, Brother Ho, you can keep it, if you can exchange it for the mountain-gazing stone. If there are any extra, consider it a gift from me to Brother Ho. If Brother Ho can help me find the pill recipe of the spirit tempering pill, that would be even better. Since Ho Guanqi could know about the spirit tempering pill, it was very likely that he had seen the pill recipe of the spirit tempering pill. Lin Yi still had so many spiritual awareness grassroots in his hands. Instead of throwing them in the jade pendant space, it would be better to find a way to refine the spirit tempering pill. Compared to the mountain-gazing pill, the purifying spirit pill was probably more popular. If Ho Guanqi could find the recipe for it, he wouldn't care about the mountain-gazing stone. When Ho Guanqi heard that Lin Yi wanted the pill recipe of the spirit tempering pill, he immediately understood that he still had some spiritual awareness grassroots on him. Otherwise, what was the use of the pill recipe? Since Lin Yi still had the spiritual awareness grassroots, Ho Guanqi was no longer polite. He really wanted the spiritual awareness grassroots in this jade box. The key was that the difficulty of refining the spirit tempering pill was not high. At most he had just entered the yellow grade 7th grade. He could barely try to refine it. Brother Lin, then this big brother will not be polite. The pill recipe of the spirit tempering pill, we have it in the pill hall. You can exchange it with contribution points, because the spiritual awareness grass is extinct on the Heaven Stage Island, so the exchange rate is not high. You wait a moment, I will immediately go and get the mountain-gazing stone and the pill recipe of the spirit tempering pill for you. Ho Guanqi put away the jade box and immediately stood up and said to Lin Yi. In exchange for the mountain-gazing stone, Ho Guanqi was not prepared to use the spiritual awareness grass roots. This thing was too precious. He would rather use his other spiritual grass to exchange for it. As for the slightly illegal place, he did not care much about it, but now he did not care about it. Lin Yi thanked Ho Guanqi and watched Ho Guanqi leave in a hurry. He originally wanted to say that he did not want the mountain-gazing stone, he just needed the pill recipe of the spirit-tempering pill. Anyway, refining the spirit-tempering pill would be enough to raise enough funds, but after thinking about it, the mountain-gazing pill would be used sooner or later. If he did not refine it, it would be better to keep it for his own use, so he did not say anything. After waiting for half an hour or so, Ho Guanqi walked in quickly and handed a small jade box to Lin Yi with a smile on his face. There was also a pill recipe made of parchment paper. Brother Lin, this is the mountain-gazing stone and the pill recipe of the spirit-tempering pill. It's a pity that with my authority, I can only exchange for a mountain-gazing stone, otherwise I would have given both to you. Ho Guanqi said with some embarrassment. The spiritual awareness grass root made him feel that he had taken a big advantage. Lin Yi did not care, but he could not ignore it. Brother Ho, don't say that. With the mountain-gazing stone and the pill recipe of the spirit-tempering pill, you have already helped me a lot. Well, you go ahead and sort it out. I also have to go back and sort it out. See you on the ship. Lin Yi got what he wanted and immediately got up to leave. This time he just planned to ask. He did not expect that not only did he get a mountain-gazing stone, but also accidentally got the pill recipe of the spirit-tempering pill. Lin Yi could not wait to go back and try it. If he could really refine the spirit-tempering pill, Lin Yi was ready to leave a part of it for Tian Chan and Sydney, so that they could also temper their spiritual awareness. Unfortunately, apart from the Heaven's Fortune battle art, he did not have any spiritual awareness cultivation methods suitable for them to cultivate. Otherwise, with the spirit-tempering pill, they would be able to get twice the result with half the effort. Okay, then we will see you on the ship in the evening. Take care. Ho Guanqi sent Lin Yi to the door, waved goodbye, turned to pack up his luggage, and then prepared to study the refining of the spirit-tempering pill. Of course, Ho Guanqi did not have the heaven-defying function of Lin Yi's Shenong cauldron, and now there was no way to refine the pill. He could only study it first, and after boarding the ship, he would try to refine the spirit-tempering pill. It was estimated that the time to go to the extreme North Island should be enough for him to refine it once or twice. Lin Yi originally wanted to go to the Five Elements Commerce to visit Kai Zhongyang, and let him also collect the materials and pill recipe of the profound grade 1 pill, but now it was not necessary. With the pill recipe of the spirit-tempering pill, plus the large spiritual awareness grass root in his hand, he certainly did not need to go to Kai Zhongyang now. It was not too late to collect it after boarding the ship. Back to the Tiandan Pavilion, Lin Yi and Tian Chan and Sydney greeted each other, then returned to the room again to start refining the pill. After taking out the Shenong cauldron and entering the formula of the spirit-tempering pill, the automatic alchemy system began to generate the alchemy script. The best ratio was to refine 4 sets of materials at the same time, and it was estimated that 5 pills could be refined. In addition to the spiritual awareness grass root, the rest of the auxiliary spirit grasses Lin Yi had reserves, so there was no problem in this regard. Taking out a thumb-thick spiritual awareness grass root, Lin Yi put the rest of the spirit grasses together into the Shenong cauldron, and began to condense the pill fire to refine the spirit-tempering pill. However, to Lin Yi's surprise, this time the alchemy only started for 5 minutes, and was declared a failure. Chapter 5805. Fortunately, the system analyzed the reason for the failure and told Lin Yi, the refinement of the spirit cleansing pill requires the combination of the spirit cleansing flame and qi refinement flame. Generating new refinement script. Please wait a moment, Lin Yi bro. It required the spirit cleansing flame and qi refinement flame to be used together. Lin Yi was speechless. If that was the case, then wouldn't he be the only one on Sky-class island who could concoct the spirit cleansing pill? Even Zhang Liju wouldn't be able to conjure the spirit cleansing pill, right? But it was hard to say for this cheap Shifu of his, who knew, he might have some miraculous abilities. Speaking of which, he should remind Hou Guanqi so that he wouldn't waste the spirit grass root, but Lin Yi knew that he wouldn't be able to concoct the pill today, so he wasn't in a rush. He'd tell him when he got on the boat, and he'd also tell him and Kai Zhongyang how to conjure the spirit cleansing pill fire. 2 minutes later, the new refinement script was generated, and Lin Yi cleaned out the residue in the Shenong cauldron and put in the 4 portions of the spirit cleansing pill ingredients. He then started to multitask, injecting pure qi into the cauldron and the spirit cleansing pill with the other. Thanks to the experience of conjuring the super refinement flame bomb, Lin Yi was able to multitask easily. He followed the instructions of the system and alternated the 2 types of energy. Of course, most of the time, he had to use both pure qi and spirit cleansing at the same time. In terms of difficulty, it was even harder than concocting a mystic class pill like the Earth Solid pill. Lin Yi estimated that even if Hou Guanqi learned how to conjure the spirit cleansing pill fire, he might not be able to concoct the spirit cleansing pill. Although this pill was classified as a golden class 7th level pill, that was an ancient classification. With the current difficulty, it wouldn't be strange to say that it was a mystic class 2nd level pill. Besides, the most important thing was that Hou Guanqi learning how to conjure the spirit cleansing pill fire now was the same as starting from 0. Ding! 7 soul tempering pills have been obtained, 2 more than expected. All of them are of the highest quality. Analyzing the reason, Lin Yi was overjoyed. He originally thought that after the first failure, the new script would need to be tested a few more times before it could be perfected. Who knew that he would directly produce a super perfect pill refinement? Not only was the quality of all the pills unique, but even the quantity was 2 more than the original estimate. The analysis of the cause of the abnormality is complete. Due to the fact that the main ingredient used is of a higher grade, an overflow occurred. If the main ingredient of the same grade is used in the next pill refinement, the amount used can be reduced by half, or the amount of supplementary ingredients can be doubled. I see. I understand now. Lin Yi nodded and whispered, he really understood. In the soul tempering pill recipe, the main material was actually the spiritual consciousness grass, but Lin Yi directly used the spiritual consciousness grass root. It would be strange if there was no overflow. In fact, it was a waste of the spiritual qi of the spiritual sense grass root. If it was divided into 2 alchemy, that piece of spiritual sense grass root should be able to produce 10 pills. But it didn't matter, Lin Yi didn't have much, but he had a lot of spiritual sense grass roots. Immediately taking out the jade bottle, he put away the 6 soul tempering pills, and then left one and swallowed it directly. Before giving it to Tian Chan and Sydney, Lin Yi must try it himself first, so that if there was any problem, it would be too late to regret it. The pill still had the warmth of the freshly refined pill, and after entering Lin Yi's mouth, it turned into a warm current flowing into his abdomen, and then rose to his knowledge sea and began to temper Lin Yi's spiritual sense. After experiencing the painful tempering of the spiritual sense grass root, the soul tempering pill was simply gentle like a lover's caress. In a short period of time, Lin Yi's spiritual sense seemed to have condensed a little, and there was no side effect. Lin Yi really wanted to cry but had no tears. If he had this pill recipe earlier, he wouldn't have to suffer so much. But then again, if Han Jingjing hadn't upgraded the automatic alchemy system, and included the spiritual sense pill flame, even if Lin Yi had the pill recipe, he might not have been able to refine the soul tempering pill. Good stuff. The soul tempering pill is really a good thing. If I take it out to auction, I don't believe it won't sell for a good price. Lin Yi opened his eyes, smiled to himself, and then began to refine the soul tempering pill again. This time, He reduced the amount of spiritual sense grass root by half, and sure enough, he refined 5 pills, and they were still of special quality. The Fictional cauldron with the automatic alchemy system was so heaven-defying. After refining 3 batches of soul-tempering pills in a row, Lin Yi stopped. 16 special quality soul-tempering pills, with the strength of Tian Chan and Sydney's spiritual sense, it was enough for them to cultivate for 2 or 3 months. When he returned from the extreme North Island, he would give them some more. Seeing that there was still some time before dark, and Kai Zhongyang had not come to inform him that he could board the ship, Lin Yi simply took out the mountain-gazing stone and prepared to refine the mountain-gazing pill. Lin Yi was not in a hurry to refine this kind of pill, but Ho Guanqi still needed to have a mountain-gazing pill, so he still wanted to refine it as soon as possible and hand it over to Ho Guanqi. After the failure of the spirit-tempering pill, the automatic alchemy system began to automatically include the divine sense alchemy fire and the true qi alchemy fire into the scope of calculation when analyzing the alchemy recipe and forming the alchemy script. Therefore, there were actually 2 alchemy fire refining methods for this mountain-gazing pill. In other words, both the spiritual sense pill fire and the true qi pill fire could be used to refine this kind of pill. It all depended on which one to choose. Anyway, the result was the same. In this regard, Lin Yi did not care. Anyway, he was already used to using true qi and spiritual sense. Either one was fine, it was just that using true qi was easier. When the sky was dark, the mountain-gazing pill was finally refined successfully. Lin Yi was pleasantly surprised to find that although it was his first time refining the mountain-gazing pill, in the end, there were actually 9 pills, and all of them were top-grade mountain-gazing pills of special quality. No one would believe it if he said it out. Originally, the script expected 7 pills, which made Lin Yi very happy. After all, a mountain-gazing stone was only a little more than 5 pills, but in the end, it almost doubled. This was probably because of the 2 alchemy fire refining methods, which made the efficacy of the pills more perfectly fused together. In a happy mood, Lin Yi put away the mountain-gazing pill, cleaned up the Fictional cauldron, and did not continue refining pills. Instead, he went to Han Jingjing's room. Han Jingjing was still the same, nothing had changed. Lin Yi looked at her calm face and smiled. Jingjing, thanks to your automatic alchemy system, I don't have to worry about not having enough spiritual jades to buy the spirit gathering branch. Last time you went to Earth to save me, this time, let me save you. I will be back soon. Lin Yi smiled and said, Jingjing, thanks to your automatic alchemy system, I don't have to worry about not having enough spiritual jades to buy the spirit gathering branch. Last time you went to Earth to save me, this time, let me save you. Chapter 5806. I will. Lin Yi nodded and said solemnly. He then took out the jade bottle containing the spirit-tempering pills and said, Here are 16 spirit-tempering pills. You and Sydney will each have half. It can be used to temper one's spirit. Spirit-tempering pill. You actually concocted the spirit-tempering pill. Tian Chan raised her head and looked at Lin Yi in surprise. It was evident that she had heard of what the spirit-tempering pill was. Lin Yi immediately blushed. Even Tian Chan knew about the spirit-tempering pill, but he had never heard of it. He was really too ignorant. In fact, Tian Chan had only read about it in the Alchemy Hall's records. This was the importance of inheritance. If Lin Yi could stay by Zhang Liju's side, his knowledge wouldn't be as limited as it was now. Of course, his achievements wouldn't be as high as they were now. There are 2 more mountain-gazing pills. Give one to Tian Bro. Although he won't be able to use it now, he will be able to use it in the future. As for the other one, put it in the shop and sell it as the treasure of the shop. Lin Yi didn't explain about the spirit-tempering pill. He just gave the 2 mountain-gazing pills to Tian Chan. The will of heaven practiced the creation arts that Lin Yi had helped him modify. He should be able to improve very quickly in the future. With one mountain gazing pill, he might be able to enter the opening mountain phase very soon. As for the other one, it could make Tiandan Pavilion's reputation skyrocket again. Although it wouldn't be able to make up for the loss of the past 2 years, it could at least restore some of the popularity. Tian Chan didn't ask much about the pills. She put them away and hugged Lin Yi and said, "The other things aren't important. It's good that you are safe. Remember to come back soon." "I will." Lin Yi smiled and reached out to hug Tian Chan's soft body. He then saw Shueli poking her head out of the door to look at them. He waved at Shueli, asking her to come over. She was a bit shy at first, but she quickly came over. Evidently, she knew that he was going to the extreme North Island soon, and she wouldn't be able to see him for a while. She didn't want to miss any chance. Tian Chan, on the other hand, was generous. She pulled Shueli into his arms, giving him the rare feeling of hugging someone left and right. Kai Zhongyang's men were still waiting downstairs, and Lin Yi didn't waste any more time. After a simple goodbye, he grabbed his luggage and went downstairs. As soon as he went out, he saw Wei Xinjin rushing over. He waved his hand and said, "Boss, the fleet is here. We can go over." "I'm going over. Let's go together." Lin Yi nodded to Wei Xinjin and followed the people sent by Kai Zhongyang to the dock. It didn't take long for them to see the outline of a huge treasure ship docked at the Middle Island's dock. There were many people loading and unloading goods. One side was unloading goods, and the other side was loading goods. Although it was busy, it was carried out in an orderly manner. Lin Yi looked at it. There were a total of 5 ships docked. In addition to the 4 large treasure ships, there was also a very familiar ancient warship. After sweeping it with his divine sense, he saw an old acquaintance, Okudaba, looking at the busy crowd on the dock. Ho Guanqi and Kai Zhongyang were beside Okudaba, chatting and laughing with him. Perhaps it was because of the relationship between Okudaba and Lin Yi. They seemed to have a good relationship. When Lin Yi's divine sense swept over, the 3 people seemed to have noticed his arrival. They all moved to the entrance of the ancient warship and waited for him. Obviously, Lin Yi was very important to them. After knowing that they were waiting for him, Lin Yi also sped up. Soon, he saw them. He immediately smiled and cupped his fists, saying, "Captain Okuda, long time no see. We finally meet again. Brother Lin, you're treating me like an outsider." "What captain? You're my honorary vice-captain here." Okudaba laughed and walked forward quickly. He directly gave Lin Yi a firm hug, fully showing the forthright nature of a man at sea. Lin Yi smiled and said, "It's my fault. Brother Okuda, please forgive me. Why are you sending us to the northernmost island this time? Brother Ho and Brother Kai are not good friends. You have been hiding it from me." Kai Zhongyang laughed and said, "I want to give you a surprise, Lin brothers. Captain Okuda has been to Nakajima several times. He has been asking about you. I think you will be very happy to see him, right?" Lin Yi now knew that Okudaba had come to see him several times in the past 2 years. This was not easy. Previously, Okudaba was not willing to go to Nakajima. It was enough to show his hospitality to visit him several times in the past 2 years. I am indeed very happy. Also, thank you, Brother Okuda, for your concern. Lin Yi remembered this favor in his heart. When there is a chance, he will definitely return it. Alright, let's go up and talk. Okudaba, don't entertain guests here. Okudaba was in a good mood. He pulled Lin Yi's hand and called everyone to board the ship. The ships on the side were busy loading and unloading cargo. Only Okuda-ba's ancient warship didn't load or unload anything. It was just replenishing some of the materials needed at sea. Lin Yi's heart slightly moved. He asked with a smile, "Brother Okuda, could it be that you have already built a fleet? These 4 enormous ships are all under your command." When Okuda-ba heard Lin Yi's question, a proud expression appeared on his face. He immediately waved his hand and said, "No, among these 4 giant ships, only 2 are mine. The other 2 are my companions. They asked me to escort them along the way. Although my dream is to build an invincible fleet, these 2 treasured ships are far from being a fleet. It's just a small fleet. Brother Okuda is too modest. How long has it been? You already have 2 giant ships. In a few years, you will definitely be able to build an invincible fleet." Kai Zhongyang complimented from the side. However, what he said was the truth. To be able to add 2 giant ships in 2 years without relying on the Okuda clan behind him, Okuda-ba's ability was definitely very powerful. However, after Okuda-ba and Okuda-ba reunited 2 years ago, no one knew whether Okuda-ba helped him in the dark. But thinking about it, it was obvious that he had contributed. "Thank you for your auspicious words." Okuda-ba couldn't conceal the happiness on his face. Obviously, Kai Zhongyang had hit the nail on the head. Lin Yi also praised him. Indeed, there were more giant ships on the Heaven Stage Island than ancient warships. However, they weren't cabbages that could be casually found. It was already not easy for Okuda-ba to add 2 giant ships in 2 years. To be continued. Chapter 5807. This time, the precious items of Middle Island's various families have been brought to the warship, and the ordinary ones have been placed on my 2 treasure ships. Of course, there are also many of my own goods. It's very tiring to maintain these 3 ships. If I don't transport my own goods, I won't even have enough food for my subordinates." Okuda-ba said with a smile, but he didn't look tired at all. Instead, he looked very happy. Lin Yi understood as well. Okuda Dam's ancient warships usually didn't carry cargo, and were used as a military force. This time, however, there were a lot of guests with high statuses in Nakajima, and so they were allowed to bring their most precious items on the warship. Of course, the safety of the giant treasure ships was very high, but compared to the ancient warship, it was not worth mentioning at all. The people of Middle Island with high status were all important customers of Okuda-ba. As long as there was no special reason, they would definitely choose to take the ancient warship. As soon as they arrived on the deck, Lin Yi saw a group of people from the Hong Chamber of Commerce also boarding the ship. Although he wasn't familiar with the people from the Hong Chamber of Commerce, he was still the honorary vice president, after all. He had to go and greet them. "Brother Okuda, I'll go and greet the people from the Hong Chamber of Commerce. You guys go in first, I'll be there in a while." Lin Yi greeted Okuda-ba and the others, then walked to the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Originally, Lin Yi wasn't interested in this kind of thing, but Hong Zhong was his best friend. For his sake, Lin Yi should go and greet him, especially since Lin Yi wanted to know how Hong Zhong was doing recently. This is Vice President Wei of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, right? I'm Lin Yi, we should have met before. Lin Yi smiled and greeted him with cupped fists. This time, there weren't many acquaintances in the Hong Chamber of Commerce, but Lin Yi had indeed met Vice President Wei 2 years ago. However, they didn't have much interaction, and he didn't even know his name. There was no friendship between them at all. If it weren't for such a familiar person, Lin Yi might not have come. Vice Chairman Wei glanced at Lin Yi indifferently. He didn't even look at him as he cupped his fists and said indifferently, "I'm Wei Jiating." "What's the matter?" Lin Yi was slightly startled. Could it be that this Wei Jiating didn't know him? Logically speaking, it was impossible. Even if Lin Yi had not appeared for 2 years, on Middle Island, there were probably not many people who did not know of Lin Yi's name, not to mention that he was the honorary vice president of the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Taking a step back, even if Wei Jieding didn't know who Lin Yi was, as the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, how could he put on such an expression on the ancient battleship of Okuda Dam? Didn't they know that those who were able to board this ancient battleship wouldn't have simple identities? Did the Hong Chamber of Commerce still want to do business? Vice President Wei, could it be that you don't recognize me? The smile on Lin Yi's face also disappeared. He wasn't used to sticking his warm face to someone else's cold butt. If it weren't for Hong Zhong's sake, he would have left in a huff. I know you are the honorary vice president, Lin Yi. If there's anything, just say it. Wei Jieding was still expressionless as he spoke. What surprised Lin Yi was that Wei Jieding clearly knew him, yet he still acted like this. It seemed that something had happened in the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Could it be that something had happened to Hong Zhong? Lin Yi was secretly shocked. He knew that even if he continued to ask Wei Jieding, there wouldn't be any results. Hence, he simply nodded and glanced at Wei Jieding indifferently. He didn't even bother to say a word and directly turned to leave. Seeing Lin Yi's expression, Wei Jieding's eyes flashed with some surprise. It seemed that he didn't expect Lin Yi to leave without saying a word. Previously, when he saw him greeting him with a warm smile, Wei Jieding thought that he was a person who could be easily bullied. It seemed that was not the case. However, Wei Jieding didn't care. It was just an honorary vice president. He might have some weight in the outside world, but in front of the vice president of the headquarters in Middle Island, he was nothing. Lin Yi walked towards Okuda Ba and the others with a gloomy expression. Lin Yi didn't care about people like Wei Jieding. He was worried about Hong Zhong now. If nothing happened, with Hong Zhong's status in the Hong Chamber of Commerce, probably no one would be disrespectful to him, the honorary vice president. Okuda Ba and the others didn't leave but waited for Lin Yi. They were all very surprised to see this scene. In Middle Island, other than the medicine sect, there was actually someone who wouldn't give Lin Yi face. Moreover, it was someone from the Hong Chamber of Commerce. It was really unexpected. Ho Guanqi and Kai Zhongyang were still fine, but Okuda Ba was considering if he should directly chase the people from the Hong Chamber of Commerce off the ancient battleship. However, he was also a businessman now. Before Lin Yi said anything, it was best to wait and see. Of course, he had to show his attitude. Brother Lin, what's going on with Wei Jieding? Okuda Ba frowned and asked Lin Yi, who was walking over. As long as Lin Yi said it, he would definitely chase Wei Jieding and the others away. Although he didn't say it explicitly, he believed that Lin Yi understood what he meant. Lin Yi waved his hand and said with a faint smile, "It's nothing. He's just an irrelevant person. We don't need to care about him." That's right, that's right. There's no need to care about ordinary people. Let's go and have a drink together. Okuda Ba smiled. Since Lin Yi said this, it saved him from being in a difficult position. Naturally, his mood was much better. However, he remembered Wei Jieding. As long as he had a proper reason, Okuda Ba wouldn't be polite to him. As they were talking, a flying spirit beast directly flew over from the sky above Middle Island and quickly landed on the deck of the ancient battleship. If it was in the past, the people on the ancient battleship would have already surrounded the person. However, Okuda Ba was a businessman now, so of course, he wouldn't do such a thing. On Middle Island, flying spirit beasts were generally prohibited. Except for a small number of people at the top who had this privilege, ordinary people would be courting death if they dared to fly. Now that someone directly flew from the inland direction of Middle Island to Okuda Ba's ancient battleship, it was obvious that the person's identity was noble. Okudaba only took a glance at the person on the flying spirit beast and didn't have any intention of greeting him. The acting island master of Middle Island was his second brother. Except for people like Lin Yi, who he thought highly of, there weren't many people who were worthy of him greeting personally. Even if it was to do business, he wouldn't deliberately cater to others. Chapter 5808. The other person was someone Lin Yi knew, Xing Dongjue of House Xing. As the vice head of the Pill Hall, he was accompanying this classical beauty. One could see how noble this girl's identity was. Other than the two of them, there was a young man on the flying spirit beast. His looks were passable, but he was smiling and talking to the girl attentively. It made people have a bad impression of him. "Brother Ho, is this someone from the Pill Hall?" Lin Yi put aside his worry for Hong Zhong and asked curiously. It wasn't the first time he came to the Middle Island, but he had never heard of someone like this in the Pill Hall. She could actually ride a flying spirit beast and have Xing Dongjue by her side. Ho Guanqi introduced softly, "That's right, she's called Li Xiaoyi, the head refiner of the Pill Hall. The head isn't here, so her skills are the strongest. Although I don't know who her master is, she is indeed very talented. Brother Lin, your skills are quite strong as well, but to put it bluntly, you might not be able to compare to Master Li." Lin Yi smiled faintly and didn't mind. If he lost the Shenong Cauldron, his skills wouldn't be comparable to Li Xiaoyi's. Anyone who could make elixirs would be better than him. There really wasn't much to say in this regard. But this girl was the head refiner of the Hall of Elixirs. Lin Yi couldn't help but be surprised when he heard that. Although he didn't count Zhang Liju as his master, there were still quite a number of refiners in the Hall of Elixirs. Being able to get the title of head refiner meant that this girl with a weird name had real skills. Looking at her age, she should be even younger than Lin Yi. There really were geniuses everywhere. Alchemist Li's identity is very mysterious. A few years ago, he suddenly appeared in the Dan Hall and became the chief alchemist of our Dan Hall in one fell swoop. After that, he went into closed-door cultivation to refine pills for a long period of time. Normally, he would not even be able to see his figure, and I wonder what level his pill refining ability has reached. Ho Guanqi obviously admired this little beauty, Li Xiaoyi. When he talked about her, his face was full of admiration. Kai Zhongyang also echoed, "Yes, I have also heard of Li Xiaoyi's name." This time she was able to participate in the auction of the extreme North Island. She must have taken a fancy to something. Among the first auction items that were revealed, there were indeed several top-grade alchemy materials. Lin Yi shrugged his shoulders. He did not care much about alchemy, as long as they did not compete with him for the Gathering God branch and Soul Wood. As for Li Xiaoyi's strong alchemy ability, he did not care. In the cultivation world, strength was respected, regardless of gender. The same was true for alchemy. For example, Han Jingjing's talent was definitely not worse than Li Xiaoyi's. Let's go have a chat and drink. It's better than standing here in the wind." Okudaba greeted everyone with a smile. He knew that Lin Yi did not have a good impression of Xing Dongjue, and they were even enemies with deep hatred, so he was too lazy to care about Li Xiaoyi and her group. Since they did not have a good relationship, he would just mind his own business. Although as the captain of the ancient warship, Okudaba should show a neutral and peaceful attitude to maintain a transcendent force field, Lin Yi was his honorary vice-captain. He was definitely one of them. Of course, others could do whatever they wanted. Although Ho Guanqi was also a member of the Pill Hall, he had always been at odds with Xing Dongjue. Normally, when he saw Li Xiaoyi coming out of seclusion, he would go over to greet her. However, with Xing Dongjue there, Ho Guanqi pretended not to see it. Okudaba brought Lin Yi, Ho Guanqi, Kai Zhongyang, and Wei Shinjin to his four-person banquet hall. Someone had already prepared exquisite food, and the five of them sat down casually to eat. When Lin Yi saw the food, he thought of Languza. If this guy was here, he would probably sweep away everything again. He did not know if he was nearby, or if he had already entered the sea near Middle Island and waited for the ship here to set off before catching up. By the way, Brother Kai, Brother Ho, this time, there seems to be a lot of big shots at the auction on Extreme North Island. I have been there once before, but I did not see many big shots there. Lin Yi took a sip of the wine brewed with spirit fruit and asked Kai Zhongyang and Ho Guanqi casually. Kai Zhongyang smiled and said, "Indeed, the scale of this time is relatively large." Well, it should be said that it is the largest auction on Extreme North Island in the past 10 years. The reason is that many precious treasures came out of Dongzhou, such as the Spirit Gathering Branch and the Soul Wood. Speaking of which, these two things are not the most precious treasures this time. Ho Guanqi also nodded with a smile and said, "Because there are so many good things, this time the auction on Extreme North Island is quite sensational. Every family has also taken out their more precious collections to participate in the auction, so the level of this auction has increased by several levels. For example, in the past, the elixirs of the foundation establishment stage could be the main auction item, but this year, it is estimated that ordinary auction items can't even be auctioned, and can only be traded in the periphery." Lin Yi deeply believed that the last time he went with Hongzhou, because they were plotted against by the opponents of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, causing them to lose the auction items they prepared on the way. It was he who continuously refined more than 100 top-grade elixirs of the foundation establishment stage that let Hongzhou escape the disaster. At that time, the elixirs were all for the foundation establishment stage, belonging to the 4th level of the yellow level, but it was already very rare to be auctioned. But this time, it is estimated that only the elixirs of the 6th level of the yellow level and above are qualified to enter the auction. Speaking of elixirs, Lin Yi remembered about the restrictions of the spirit-quenching pill, so he said to Ho Guanqi and Kai Zhongyang, "Brother Ho, Brother Kai, this time I learned a method of using divine sense to condense elixir fire in the small ancient Jianghu. The alchemists there all use the divine sense elixir fire to refine elixirs. I don't know if you have heard of it." "There is such an elixir fire." "I have never heard of it," Ho Guanqi said in surprise. Although he hadn't started refining the spirit-quenching pill yet, he had studied it a few times and felt that something wasn't right. Now that he heard Lin Yi talk about the divine sense elixir fire, he finally understood. Kai Zhongyang may be the vice president of the 5 Elements Commerce, but he was also Zhang Liju's disciple in name. He asked with interest, "This type of divine sense elixir fire sounds very interesting. If Brother Lin doesn't mind, why don't you show it to us?" "Of course not." Lin Yi smiled and reached out his left hand, using his divine sense to condense an elixir fire. Although Okuda Ba and Wei Shinjin didn't know much about elixir refining, they were very curious when they saw the divine sense elixir fire. Chapter 5809. Lin Yi's heart moved slightly. He seemed to have grasped something, but before he could think about it, Ho Guanqi opened his mouth and asked, "Brother Lin, this method of condensing the pill flame, can you teach it to us?" Normally, this kind of thing was not something an ordinary person could casually mention. Any method of condensing a pill flame, if one wanted to obtain it, there was a price to pay. However, Ho Guanqi's relationship with Lin Yi was not ordinary. Even the spiritual sense grass root could be casually given to him, so a trivial method of condensing a pill flame, he estimated that he would not keep it to himself. Moreover, Ho Guanqi had already felt that the pill flame was the key to refining the soul-tempering pill. If he could not master the pill flame, it was estimated that the spiritual sense grass root in his hands could only be used directly. Lin Yi said that he wanted to teach them, and Ho Guanqi could see this point clearly, so without saying anything, he taught them the method of condensing the pill flame. As for Ao Tianba and Wei Shinjin, if they wanted to learn it, there was no problem. he was afraid that they would not be interested. After teaching, Lin Yi slowly drank the spirit fruit wine alone, letting the four of them ponder the method of condensing the pill flame. Unfortunately, after half an hour, there was no progress or gain. The first to give up was Wei Xinjin, then Ao Tianba. Kai Zhongyang persisted for a while, and finally Hou Guanqi, who was unwilling to give up. Brother Lin, the strength of my spiritual sense is too weak. It seems that there is no way to successfully condense this pill flame. Hou Guanqi shook his head helplessly. He clearly knew that without the pill flame, he could not refine the soul-tempering pill. Unfortunately, his spiritual sense really could not condense the pill flame, unless he used a lot of soul-tempering pills to temper the strength of his spiritual sense. However, if one's divine sense wasn't strong enough, they wouldn't be able to condense a pill fire to refine the soul-tempering pill. This was simply an unsolvable cycle. Lin Yi could sense that the strength of divine sense of Hou Guanqi and Kai Zhongyang was only about the same as the cultivators who had just built their foundation in the remote ancient Jianghu. It was indeed too difficult for them to condense the divine sense elixir fire. Even if they succeeded, it would not be of much use, because the strength of their divine sense was not enough to support the concoction of a furnace of elixirs. Senior brother, this kind of spiritual sense alchemic fire is a relatively useless thing for us. Don't worry too much about it. Anyway, it's not of much use. Kai Zhongyang said indifferently. He did not know that Hou Guanqi wanted to use the spiritual sense alchemic fire to refine the soul-tempering pill. For him, the spiritual sense alchemic fire really did not have much meaning. Hou Guanqi shook his head and did not say anything. The matter of the spiritual sense grassroots was related to Lin Yi. Unless he said it himself, Hou Guanqi would not leak any information about it. As for the matter of the soul-tempering pill, naturally the fewer people who knew about it, the better. Regarding this situation, Lin Yi also had no way to deal with it. Even if he refined the soul-tempering pill, it was impossible to provide it to Hou Guanqi without limit. There were too many people close to him. Even if he had more spiritual sense grassroots, it would not be enough. The cultivators of the Heaven Stage Island looked down on the cultivation of spiritual sense too much. This situation was something that Lin Yi could not change. Generally, the cultivators here would only start to pay attention to the cultivation of spiritual sense after reaching the giant realm. Only those like the West Mountain Old Ancestor, who mainly used spiritual sense attack as their main means, would continue to cultivate spiritual sense cultivation method. In contrast, the cultivation method of the ancient small Jianghu was better. If it was not for the restrictions of the ancient small Jianghu, their strength might have already surpassed the Heaven Stage Island. Since no one could successfully refine the spiritual sense alchemic fire, Lin Yi no longer mentioned this matter. Okuda Ba also consciously changed the topic and talked about many interesting things he saw at sea. The atmosphere slowly became lively. For Okuda Ba, whether Lin Yi was a profound level 1 alchemist or not was not important. What he valued was Lin Yi's strength at sea and future development potential. If possible, Okuda Ba did not mind letting Lin Yi become a real vice captain or even a real captain of a ship. After chatting for a while, Lin Yi and the others got up to leave and prepared to return to their rooms to settle down. Okuda Ba still had things to deal with, so he did not personally send them over. Instead, he arranged for someone to lead the way. With the status of Lin Yi and the others, Okuda Ba naturally arranged the highest level rooms for them. Wei Xinjin's status was slightly lower, but because of Lin Yi's light, he was also arranged to be next to him. When they came to the door, Lin Yi handed a jade bottle to Wei Xinjin and said, "Go back to your room and immediately refine it. The things in your body will disappear and become your true qi. What you do in the future is up to you." Wei Xinjin was slightly startled and immediately knew what it was. He excitedly took it with both hands and bowed to thank Lin Yi. "Thank you for the medicine, boss." In the future, Wei Shenjin will still follow boss, even if I have to go through water and tread on fire, I will not hesitate. Lin Yi nodded and said, all right, you go in first, come find me later. Yes, boss. Wei Shenjin respectfully bowed and left. After entering his room, he immediately swallowed the medicine in the jade bottle. Seeing that Wei Shenjin had been loyal for the past 2 years, Lin Yi directly cut off the heart-devouring insect in his body this time, and let him completely refine the heart-devouring insect, increasing part of his cultivation. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, a refreshed Wei Shenjin knocked on the wooden door of Lin Yi's room, and after getting permission, he walked in with a beaming face. Boss. Wei Shenjin cupped his fists and bowed. He didn't say any more words of thanks, and just stood respectfully at the side. Lin Yi pointed to a chair and said, sit down and talk, no need to be restrained. Speaking of which, Lin Yi and Wei Shenjin didn't have much contact. In the beginning, Wei Shenjin was also forced to rely on Lin Yi, and the two actually didn't talk much, so they weren't familiar. This time, when you go to the extreme North Island, is there anything you want to buy? Lin Yi casually asked. It was considered as a topic of conversation. Wei Shenjin quickly shook his head and said, no, the level of this auction is too high, there is basically nothing I can participate in bidding for. Maybe I can find some suitable things in the trading market outside, I will look at it when the time comes. Oh, Lin Yi said, to be honest, he really didn't know how to chat with people. After thinking about it, he said, if you don't have enough spirit jades, just tell me, I still have a lot here. Thank you, boss, I have enough on me, if not, I will not be polite, Wei Shenjin said flatteringly. It seemed like he didn't expect Lin Yi to say these words to him. Chapter 58:10. Lin Yi burst into laughter. Wei Shenjin had finally walked out of the shadow of the past. That was good. Which family is she from? It's not enough to be her friend. It's rare to have such an opportunity. You must pursue her. Lin Yi reached out and patted Wei Shenjin's shoulder, showing his full support. She's the daughter of the vice president of the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Her name is Shang Yuhua. She's a real lady from a respectable family. She's gentle and beautiful. If I can get to know her, I'll be quite satisfied. Wei Shenjin had a gentle smile on his face. It seemed that he really fell in love. The question was, why did he say that he would be quite satisfied if he could get to know her? It turned out that this guy was totally in love with her. They didn't even know each other. Lin Yi felt that this guy still had a long way to go. Well, come on. Do you want me to give you some advice? Lin Yi just said it casually. He didn't expect that Wei Shenjin seemed to have been waiting for his words. After hearing it, he immediately nodded. Boss, it's great that you're willing to give me advice. With your help, I think it'll be very smooth. Wei Shenjin said with a little excitement, which made Lin Yi speechless. What's going on? Did Wei Shenjin plan to ask him for advice a long time ago? Thinking about it, it was really possible. In the past 2 years, Wei Shenjin had been helping in the Tiandan Pavilion. Of course, he knew that the two stunning beauties, Tian Chan and Sydney, were both in love with Lin Yi. Later, Han Jingjing, Shengguan Laner, and it was said that there was also the little princess of West Island, Ning Xuefei. Boss Lin Yi was absolutely powerful in this aspect. He was Wei Shenjin's goal and idol. Now that he had a chance to ask for advice, of course, he wouldn't miss it. Lin Yi smiled bitterly and shook his head. It seemed that he couldn't casually talk nonsense in the future. Wasn't this just looking for trouble for himself? If he had the time, it would be better to refine 2 more furnaces of pills. However, since he had already said it, Lin Yi could only be responsible to the end. After thinking for a while, he said, "How about this? You don't know her yet, so the most important thing is to let her get to know you and have a good impression of you. After that, we can proceed to the next step of the plan." If you ask what's the next step? He was still thinking about it. Wei Shenji nodded and said, "Boss, you're right. We have to let her know me first. I know that the Universal Chamber of Commerce is also riding an ancient warship this time. Why don't we find her first?" Lin Yi was also speechless. It was the middle of the night. Where could he find her location? If he had known earlier, he could have just asked Okuda Dam. The ancient warship had restrictions that blocked divine sense everywhere. So, although Lin Yi's divine sense was strong, it wasn't easy to find someone. In addition, he didn't know who Shang Yuhua was, so he couldn't find her even if he wanted to. "Boss, why don't we go to the restaurant on the ship? Maybe we'll be able to see her." Wei Shenjin actively put forward his own suggestion. Lin Yi wanted to say that he would wait until tomorrow to find her, but he thought that it was his idea. Since Wei Shenjin wanted to take a look, then he would go and take a look. The two left the room and went to the small restaurant in the ancient warship's VIP cabin. Although it was expensive, there were quite a lot of people there. Along the way, they saw several people walking there. This was completely different from what Lin Yi thought. Is it because they just boarded the ship, so they can't sleep? Or is it because the food here is so delicious that they can't wait to come again tomorrow? After entering the restaurant, Lin Yi realized that he had underestimated the number of nobles in Middle Island. The ancient warship's VIP cabin wasn't for the rich. In other words, in this small restaurant for VIPs, all the people in Middle Island were famous people. Wei Shenjin took a deep breath. Seeing that the small restaurant was almost full, he couldn't help but feel a little scared. As a core disciple of the Snow Sword School, Wei Shenjin could barely be counted as one of the nobles of the Middle Island. However, compared to the people here, he was clearly at the lowest level. He could only be considered as barely qualified to enter this circle. "Boss, why don't we go back? There are so many people," Wei Shenjin said hesitantly. In front of so many people, it was really embarrassing for him to pursue Shang Yuhua. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Is the girl you like here?" "Yes," Wei Shenjin replied in a low voice with some embarrassment. Then, he glanced in a direction without anyone noticing. Lin Yi didn't turn his head to look. Instead, he used his divine sense to follow Wei Shenjin's gaze. If there was someone with the same divine sense as him, it would be very impolite and might even cause a conflict. However, Lin Yi already knew that Heaven Stage Island was basically a divine sense desert. It was impossible to detect his divine sense without reaching the Magnate Realm. Even in the first two realms of the Magnate Realm, there wouldn't be anyone with a stronger divine sense than him, unless it was someone like Shishan Old Master who relied on his divine sense. Because of this, Lin Yi's divine sense easily found the table of the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Although he didn't know the people of the Universal Chamber of Commerce, he still knew the logo of their Chamber of Commerce. There were a total of 5 people at the table. 2 of them were from the Universal Chamber of Commerce, and the other 3 were familiar with them. At this time, they were chatting happily. The 2 people from the Universal Chamber of Commerce were a man and a woman. The man was a middle-aged man dressed in brocade clothes. The woman was about 20 years old and wore a light yellow skirt. She should be the Shang Yuhua that Wei Shenjin liked. Her appearance and temperament were really good. Although she wasn't at the level of Tian Chan and Sydney, she was only slightly inferior. "You have a good eye. Okay, let's find a place to sit down first. I'll see if there is a chance for you to get to know each other later." Lin Yi still didn't look over there. He just looked around casually, as if he was looking for an empty seat. Then he whispered to Wei Shinjin. Wei Shinjin looked a little embarrassed. Although he was not very embarrassed, he had a little confidence in Lin Yi, the boss, to make the decision. Over there. There are still empty seats at the table over there. Lin Yi pointed casually. There were indeed 2 empty seats between the 2 tables of Shang Yuhua and Lin Yi. Here, everyone's status was similar. It was normal to share a table. Eating was not the main point. Making friends was the most important thing. Of course, Wei Shinjin had no objection. The 2 empty seats were facing Shang Yuhua, and they were separated by 2 tables. It was a safe distance, just enough for him to peek at her secretly. It couldn't be better. Chapter 58:11. However, after Lin Yi sat down, he realized that he had seen the person sitting opposite him before. It was the chief alchemist of the Pill Hall, the genius girl, Li Xiaoyi. Li Xiaoyi noticed that there were 2 people sitting opposite her. She raised her head and glanced at them, but there was no change in expression on her delicate face. Lin Yi smiled slightly and nodded to her as a kind greeting. However, Li Xiaoyi had no intention of responding. After withdrawing her gaze, she continued to eat the food in front of her indifferently. Although Li Xiaoyi's appearance was more beautiful than Shang Yuhua's, Wei Shinjin, who was in the eye of the beholder, did not pay attention to her at all. He completely ignored her existence and just asked Lin Yi in a low voice, "Boss, what should we do next?" "Next, let's order something to eat first," Lin Yi said somewhat speechlessly. Wei Shinjin's expression and tone could easily make people misunderstand that they were going to do something bad. Fortunately, Li Xiaoyi seemed to be indifferent to everything around her. Otherwise, it would really be quite embarrassing. Wei Shinjin responded with an "oh" and quickly waved to the waiter in the VIP restaurant to come over to order. Lin Yi paid attention to what Li Xiaoyi was eating. They should all be things from the sea. A little meat, a little sea plants, and a drink brewed with spiritual fruit. These things contained rich spiritual energy fluctuations, which were obviously very beneficial to cultivators. It was no wonder that so many people came here to eat even though it was so late. Not only could they communicate with people of similar status, they could also enjoy delicious food, and they could also obtain the same effect of meditating and cultivating. Of course, this kind of place would attract many people. On the way to the extreme North Island, perhaps this was the most popular place. Of course, people like Li Xiaoyi would probably just come to taste something new, and then enter a state of closed-door alchemy. Therefore, this might be the only time they could encounter such a situation here. After ordering something casually, Wei Shinjin waved his hand to dismiss the waiter, and then asked again in a low voice, "Boss, what should we do next?" Lin Yi was really defeated by him. It seemed that the intelligence of a man who fell in love was infinitely close to zero. He was almost losing the ability to think for himself, wait for the food to come up, "Yes, boss." As soon as Wei Shinjin finished speaking, he noticed a person walking over quickly and standing beside him. Before he could look up to see who it was, he heard the man say coldly, "Who are you two? Go away at once. This is this young master's seat." Lin Yi didn't even raise his eyes. He didn't want to pay attention to this guy at all. In his divine sense, he had already discovered that this guy was the young man who came with Li Xiaoyi and Jingdongjue. If he had talked nicely with him, Lin Yi might have given up his position, but this condescending tone of command. Did he really think he was something? Lin Yi was too lazy to respond, but Wei Shinjin was unhappy. He was about to sneak a peek at Yuhua, but he was interrupted abruptly. He was a little shocked, so it would be strange if he had a good expression. "Your seat." "I'm sorry, I didn't see your name anywhere. I only know that this is a public place." Whoever sits down first gets the seat. Could it be that your butt is so big that you can occupy this place from a distance? Wei Shinjin sneered mercilessly. His identity was indeed nothing here, but it didn't mean that anyone could bully and order him around. What's more, his boss, Lin Yi, was sitting next to him. He couldn't lose his boss's face. The young man said angrily, "Who are you? How dare you speak to this young master like this? Get out of the way, or I, Xing Tianqing, will let you know what regret is." Xing Tianqing. I thought you were a big shot. It turns out that you are the grandson of that old dog, Xing Dongxing. As a little dog, your barking skill is quite good. Wei Shinjin sneered. If it were someone else, he might give some face. Xing Dongxing's grandson. Then he was really just a grandson. Tiandan Pavilion and the medicine sect had been like fire and water for a long time. It would be strange if they paid attention to this fool. Xing Tianqing's face suddenly became livid. He hadn't been in Middle Island for a long time, but because of his relationship with Xing Dongxing and Xing Dongjue, he was relatively popular in Middle Island. He had never been bullied like this before. When in Dongzhou, Xing Tianqing might not be the most talented one, but when he came to Middle Island, he felt quite good about himself. Although Middle Island seemed to be the central area of the Heaven Stage Island, in fact, Dongzhou was the strongest place. From Dongzhou to Middle Island, Xing Tianqing thought that only a woman like Li Xiaoyi was worthy of him. If Li Xiaoyi hadn't been next to him, Xing Tianqing would definitely have immediately turned hostile and attacked him. Fortunately, he still had some sense of propriety and didn't dare to be too presumptuous, lest Li Xiaoyi would be unhappy. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Xing Tianqing said coldly, "I'm with her. We don't like people sharing tables. You two leave here immediately." This time, Wei Shinjin couldn't say anything. It didn't matter if he looked down on Xing Tianqing, but Li Xiaoyi was the chief alchemist of Alchemy Hall. If he talked nonsense, he would offend Alchemy Hall. Lin Yi glanced at Li Xiaoyi lightly. This girl was sitting alone in the middle of the two seats on the bench. Obviously, she didn't want anyone to sit next to her. If she really wanted Xing Tianqing to sit down, she should move now to make room, but it seemed that she didn't have this idea. "Alchemist Li, is he with you?" Lin Yi asked casually. He guessed that Li Xiaoyi would probably not admit it. If she admitted that she was with Xing Tianqing, Lin Yi wouldn't give up the seat to the Xing family, but would ask her to give it up herself. Sure enough, as Lin Yi expected, Li Xiaoyi looked up and said lightly without any emotion on her face, "No." Xing Tianqing was suddenly embarrassed, and he was also very angry with Li Xiaoyi in his heart, but he didn't dare to show it. He could only snort angrily at Wei Shinjin. Wei Shinjin laughed and said, "The Xing family is really shameless. Forget it, I don't want to argue with you. Get out of here. If you're hungry, our boss doesn't mind throwing you a bone." These words were going to confirm Xing Tianqing's identity as a puppy. How could Xing Tianqing bear it? After a cold snort, the genuine qi in his body was instantly released, and the momentum of the early Yuanying stage suddenly crushed towards Lin Yi and Wei Shinjin. Chapter 58-12. If Xing Tianqing didn't know what was good for him, Lin Yi didn't mind teaching him a lesson. However, this guy withdrew his true qi as soon as he released it. Perhaps he knew that this was not a place for him to be presumptuous, so he didn't take further action. It seemed that it was just a momentary impulse under anger. In this way, Lin Yi couldn't teach him a lesson. He didn't want to bully the weak. Regarding Xing Tianqing's gaffe, Li Xiaoyi still didn't have any emotional fluctuations, as if the other party was completely unrelated to her. But when she came, she clearly boarded the ship with Xing Tianqing on a flying spirit beast. It seemed that this chick not only had a strange name, but also a strange character. Looking at her unapproachable appearance, it was not easy for her to tolerate Lin Yi and Wei Shenjin sitting opposite her. After Jing Tianqing withdrew his momentum, he didn't say anything more. He glared at Lin Yi and Wei Shenjin, then simply turned around and left. This made Lin Yi look up to him. Normally, in this kind of situation, he should have left a few brainless words, but this guy actually held back all of them. After he left, the food ordered by Wei Shenjin was delivered. Lin Yi was about to eat when he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Just now, Jing Tianqing's eyes were not only angry and hateful, but also a hint of faint pride. Because it was too vague, Lin Yi himself didn't pay much attention to it. Now that he thought about it, it seemed that something was wrong. Just as he was about to remind Wei Shenjin to see if there was anything wrong, this guy had completely shown it. "Chick, you are so beautiful. Hee, so tender. I really want to *CKU. Come here." Wei Shenjin's face turned red in an instant. While talking nonsense, he reached out to pull Li Xiaoyi's wrist. Lin Yi's face changed. He didn't expect that Jing Tianqing's means were so covert that even he was deceived. Moreover, the effect of the medicine was far more overbearing than he had imagined. In such a short time, Wei Shenjin suddenly had an attack without any warning. Li Xiaoyi, who had been expressionless, finally changed her expression. She directly slapped away Wei Shenjin's palm with the tableware in her hand. Her eyes were full of disgust, and she almost called for help. Lin Yi reacted very quickly. Before Wei Shenjin could make another move, he directly reached out and pulled him back to his seat. At the same time, he secretly restrained his ability to move, and his genuine qi flowed into his meridians like lightning. At the same time, Jing Tianqing, who had just left, quickly came back again with several guards. He pointed at Lin Yi and Wei Shenjin and said, "Catch them. How dare they molest Master Li Xiaoyi, the chief alchemist of Alchemy Hall? They simply don't know how to write the word death." Lin Yi sneered. This guy moved fast. Even a fool would not believe that it was not premeditated. When he finished speaking, Lin Yi's omnipotent genuine qi had already forced the poison in Wei Shenjin's body into his palm. After a slight shake, it condensed into a small black air mass, floating in his palm. "Jing Tianqing, right? Good little trick. You can actually poison people by releasing genuine qi. It is invisible, colorless, and tasteless. You can directly poison people by oppressing them with your aura. You do have some skills. Unfortunately, it's useless against me." Lin Yi wrapped the small black air mass with his genuine qi, grabbed it in front of his eyes, and said disdainfully. With the result, it was easy to reverse the process. Before, Lin Yi did not care about Jing Tianqing, so he could take advantage of the loophole. Now if he did it again, even if he released all his genuine qi, Lin Yi could make him swallow it back. Jing Tianqing's face changed slightly. Obviously, he did not expect that not only was Lin Yi not poisoned, but he could also force the poison out of Wei Shenjin so quickly. However, of course, he would not admit what Lin Yi said. He immediately sneered and said, "Nonsense." He turned his head and said to the guards who followed him, "What are you waiting for? These two guys who flirted with Master Li Xiao are here. Hurry up and catch them." Seeing Master Li Xiao's beauty, they dare to do bad things. They are really audacious. The guards looked at each other, but they did not really make a move to catch them. No ordinary person could sit here and eat. Only a fool would rush to catch them. At least they should figure out the matter. Lin Yi ignored Jing Tianqing and turned to ask Li Xiaoyi, "This matter started because of you. Now tell me, who do you believe?" Li Xiaoyi frowned slightly and looked at the tableware in her hand. She had not finished eating yet, but she had already used the tableware to hit Wei Shinjin's hand. It seemed that she could not continue to use it. Hearing Lin Yi's question, Li Xiaoyi raised her head. Her frowning eyebrows relaxed, and her indifferent expression returned. She threw away the tableware in her hand, stood up, and said, "It has nothing to do with me. You can make trouble yourselves." After saying this, Li Xiaoyi turned around and left, not looking at any of them again. Xing Tianqing's face darkened, and he said to the guards, "Did you see that? Master Li Xiao is angry. Hurry up and catch these two people." Lin Yi released his genuine qi, and the black gas suddenly dissipated. It was secretly injected into Xing Tianqing's body. When it came to poisoning, he was really not afraid of anyone. Originally, this thing would take a few breaths to take effect, but Lin Yi accelerated the speed of the drug, so as soon as it entered Xing Tianqing's body, Xing Tianqing immediately died. "Oh, you are so beautiful. I like you so much. Come with me." Xing Tianqing hugged the guard next to him and rubbed his body with all his might. He even made weird noises, which almost made the people eating next to him throw up. The guard who was hugged by Xing Tianqing was suddenly confused. He subconsciously wanted to break free from his arms, but this bastard was a master at the early stage of the Yuanning realm, so he couldn't break free for a while. He wanted to ask for help from his companions next to him, but those bastards all stepped back and kept a distance from Xing Tianqing. Then they looked at their brother with sympathy in their eyes. As the saying goes, if you don't go to hell, who will go to hell? Lin Yi said with a sarcastic smile, "See, you didn't control yourself well. Now the poison has taken effect, right? You've put yourself in danger. What a disgrace. Your Xing family has been disgraced by you." Li Xiaoyi looked back with a little surprise, and a thoughtful look flashed in his eyes, but he didn't mean to stay. He turned back and continued to leave. Wei Shinjin didn't have time to watch Xing Tianqing make a fool of himself now. He lowered his head and pulled on Lin Yi's sleeve, saying, "Boss, let's go." Chapter 58:13. Originally, he wanted to get to know Shang Yuhua in the best way possible, but now it was all ruined. It was estimated that Shang Yuhua would not only have a bad impression of him, but also despise Wei Shinjin. Xing Tianqing's ugly behavior was really disgusting. Lin Yi did not want this guy to affect other people's appetite, so he simply knocked him out and asked the guards to take him out. The rescued guard looked at Lin Yi gratefully and almost knelt down to thank him. However, he did not know that Xing Tianqing would be like this. The mastermind behind this was Lin Yi. After sending Xing Tianqing away, Lin Yi turned back to Wei Shinjin and said, "What are you worried about? What happened just now was not your fault. You don't need to be responsible for it." Wei Shinjin still lowered his head and did not dare to look at the Universal Chamber of Commerce. It seemed that his confidence had been seriously damaged. Lin Yi suddenly felt that he had let Xing Tianqing off too easily just now. It seemed that he had to continue to teach him a lesson next time. However, the more important thing now was to let Wei Shinjin regain his confidence. Lin Yi thought that there was no good way. He just saw the three people at Shang Yuhua's table leave, leaving only her and the middle-aged man from the Universal Chamber of Commerce. So he stood up and pulled Wei Shinjin to go there directly. Wei Shinjin was shocked. How could he have the courage to face Shang Yuhua? Especially after what had happened just now. When he was pulled by Lin Yi, he could not resist. Even if he could resist, he did not dare to have the thought of resisting. "Hello, I am Lin Yi from the Tiandan Pavilion. This is my friend, Wei Shinjin from the Snow Sword faction. Can we sit here?" Lin Yi walked over with Wei Shinjin and asked politely with his fists cupped. The middle-aged man was slightly surprised. After all, he had seen what had happened just now. However, after Lin Yi introduced himself, he immediately stood up with a smile and cupped his fists. "Oh, Master Lin from the Tiandan Pavilion. I've heard a lot about you. I am Shang Wani, the Vice President of the Universal Chamber of Commerce. This is my daughter, Shang Yuhua." Since Shang Wani had stood up, of course, Shang Yuhua could only stand up and salute Lin Yi. She seemed to have a good attitude. Although Lin Yi had some conflicts with the Universal Chamber of Commerce before, it was between the branch of the Universal Chamber of Commerce in the North Island and had nothing to do with the headquarters of Zhongdao. Of course, Shang Wani would not do anything to Lin Yi. "Master Lin, young hero Wei, please sit down. It's my honor to meet you too." Shang Wani laughed and invited Lin Yi and Shang Wani to sit down. Then he asked the waiter to bring their food over and ordered a few more dishes. However, he did not say a word about why Lin Yi and Shang Wani came here. This was the old fox in the business world. If you pretended to want to know the purpose of others when they came to you, you were not the material to do business. Wei Shinjin lowered his head slightly and looked a little uneasy. Lin Yi could only scold him for being disappointing in his heart. How could a man be shy? Lin Yi had no choice but to say, "Here's the thing. I had some dealings with the Universal Chamber of Commerce before. I also heard the name of Vice President Shang in Zhongdao. I just saw you here, so I took the liberty to come over and say hello." Shang Wani laughed and said, "Master Lin, you are too polite. What kind of reputation can I have? In Zhongdao, Master Lin, you are the man of the moment. Especially the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. Let's not talk about their past glory. When Master Lin wasn't around, they went into hibernation for a period of time. But once you returned, the Heavenly Pill Pavilion immediately soared." Lin Yi had a good impression of him, so he smiled and said, "Heavenly Dan Pavilion is just a small elixir pavilion. It can't compare to a big chamber of commerce like the Altong Chamber of Commerce. It's too much to say that it's soaring, it's all because of everyone's care. Vice President Shang is the real elite of Middle Island, even Miss Shang is so outstanding, the Altong Chamber of Commerce will definitely become more prosperous in the future." This time, the main purpose of his visit was to matchmake Wei Shinjin and Shang Yuhua. Of course, he had to bring the topic to Shang Yuhua. Lin Yi just felt that his change of topic was a little stiff. Was it too obvious? Shang Yuhua curled her lips with some disdain. Although it was only for a moment, Lin Yi caught it. What did this girl mean? Was she looking down on me? On second thought, Lin Yi understood. Shang Yuhua probably thought that Lin Yi wanted to pursue her, so she specially came to talk to him. Who didn't know the two beauties of the Tiandan Pavilion in Zhongdao? They were all Lin Yi's people. Now he wanted to provoke her, Shang Yuhua. It was reasonable for him to be despised by her. Thinking about this, Lin Yi suddenly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If he really wanted to pursue Shang Yuhua, it was not him, Lin Yi, but Wei Shinjin. When Shang Wani heard Lin Yi's praise, he laughed and said, "Master Lin, you flatter me. You are the real young hero. My daughter is definitely not comparable to you, Master Lin." After complimenting each other for a while, Lin Yi turned to Shang Yuhua and said, "Miss Shang, I heard that you have the water spiritual root, right? Do you usually practice the martial arts of ice and snow? My brother, Wei Shinjin, is a great expert in this area. You can talk about this." The purpose was too obvious, and Lin Yi was helpless. There wasn't much else he could say if he kept talking about it, so he might as well make things clear first. He didn't want Shang Yuhua to think that he was the one chasing her. Shang Yuhua was slightly startled. She glanced at Wei Shinjin and said lightly, I am not interested in the martial arts of ice and snow. Thank you, Master Lin, for your concern. Wei Shinjin's face turned pale. He lowered his head and became even more silent. Lin Yi thought that this was not good. It was not good to continue like this. He had to find a way to change Shang Yuhua's impression of Wei Shinjin. Unfortunately, before Lin Yi spoke, Shang Wani said, Master Lin, the elixirs sold in your Tiandan pavilion are all high quality. I wonder if you can cooperate with our Universal Chamber of Commerce. Please believe that we will definitely give you the greatest sincerity. Originally, Shang Wani would not take the initiative to mention this. However, he could also see that the purpose of Lin Yi's visit was not to get to know him, Shang Wani. Instead, he wanted to matchmake Snow Sword Faction's Wei Shinjin with his daughter. Since this was the case, it was better to quickly mention the cooperation, lest he missed the opportunity. Chapter 58:14. Shang Wani's face suddenly darkened. He nodded lightly and said, Master Lin is right. I was rude. The elixir business was definitely a profitable business. Shang Wani proposed to cooperate with Tiandan Pavilion because he wanted to get the selling rights of Tiandan Pavilion's elixirs at a price lower than the retail price of Tiandan Pavilion, and then sell them to the West and North Islands through the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Just like how the high-grade pills in the East Continent were prohibited from being sold on other islands without a permit, the pills on each island were also prohibited from being sold on other islands without a permit. If one was caught doing so, they would be labeled as a smuggler, and there was nothing left for them to discuss. Now Tiandan Pavilion's elixirs were in the limelight. If someone wanted to buy them on the Middle Island, he could go directly to Tiandan Pavilion. However, the elixirs of Tiandan Pavilion couldn't be bought on other islands for the time being. Shang Wani was interested in this business opportunity. However, without the permission of Tiandan Pavilion, even if he bought the elixirs, he wouldn't dare to sell them on other islands. Lin Yi's meaning was also very clear. If the elixirs of Tiandan Pavilion were to be sold on other islands, the first choice would be the Hong's Chamber of Commerce, not the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Since there was no possibility of cooperation, Shang Wani's attitude toward Lin Yi naturally became cold. Wei Shinjin was secretly anxious and thought, Boss, aren't you here to help me matchmake them? Why did you directly refuse him like this? You should at least respond perfunctorily and say something like, I'll think about it. Or is this boss's strategy of loosening the reins only to grasp them better? Forget it, forget it. I can't understand boss's wisdom. I'd better follow boss firmly. Thinking about how his impression in Shang Yuhua's heart was probably quite bad, even if Lin Yi perfunctorily brushed off Shang Wani, there might not be any changes. Wei Shinjin was a little disheartened. He could only hope that his boss had some way to reverse the situation. Lin Yi knew that Shang Wani valued the reputation of Tiandan Pavilion, but he just couldn't agree to anything. Therefore, he didn't care about the change of Shang Wani's attitude. Instead, he began to focus on building a bridge between Wei Shinjin and Shang Yuhua. Miss Shang, as far as I know, if a person with a water spiritual root can cultivate an ice and snow martial skill, its power will be more powerful than a pure water martial skill. Actually, you can give it a try. Isn't the purpose of our cultivation to pursue powerful abilities? If you can give some pointers to Wei Shinjin's water martial techniques, that would be even better. Lin Yi couldn't think of any better ideas at the moment, so he could only forcefully create a topic for the two of them to talk about. Although Wei Shinjin was grateful for Lin Yi's efforts, he didn't have any expectations. It was probably impossible for him to have a good chat with Shang Yuhua today. Sure enough, Shang Yuhua said to Lin Yi indifferently, Master Lin, I know my own situation very well. I'm not interested in ice and snow martial skills. As for teaching others water martial skills, I don't think I have the ability to do so, so you don't have to say anymore. Previously, when Shang Wani was enthusiastic towards Lin Yi, Shang Yuhua would still have some scruples. But now, there was no need to be polite. She was just short of telling Lin Yi to mind his own business. Lin Yi didn't know what to say for a moment. Wei Shinjin was such a disappointing thing. He didn't even have the courage to talk to Shang Yuhua. Relying on Lin Yi alone wouldn't be of much use. Shang Yuhua's pretty face was frosty. She turned to Wei Shinjin and said, "I've heard of you. Originally, I thought you were a person worthy of sympathy. But now, it seems that I thought too much. Just now, you took the initiative to provoke Li Xiaoyi from the Dan hole. Later, you realized that there was no chance, so you turned to provoke me, Shang Yuhua. What kind of person do you think I, Shang Yuhua, am? Do you really think that you can provoke me at will?" Wei Shinjin's face became paler and paler. He quickly shook his head and waved his hand. "It's not like this, Miss Shang. Listen to my explanation. There is nothing to explain. I, Shang Yuhua, am not deaf or blind. Don't tell me that I don't know how to distinguish what I saw with my own eyes," Shang Yuhua said coldly. She didn't want to give any patience to Wei Shinjin. Wei Shinjin was suddenly speechless. When facing Shang Yuhua, he already had some symptoms of brain short-circuiting. Now that she said it, his mind was even more blank, and there was no possibility of thinking. Lin Yi raised his hand and said, "Miss Shang, you really misunderstood what happened just now. Didn't you see what happened to Jing Tianqing later?" Wei Shinjin did lose his composure in front of Li Xiaoyi, but I can guarantee with my name, Lin Yi, that from the time we sat down to the time it happened, he didn't look at Li Xiaoyi at all, because you attracted all his attention. In this case, do you think he would suddenly do those things to Li Xiaoyi? Shang Yuhua's pretty face was slightly red. Obviously, she didn't expect Lin Yi to say it so straightforwardly, but this didn't change her view of Wei Shinjin. "Master Lin, I said that you don't need to worry about my affairs. As for your friend, I, Shang Yuhua, am also not interested. Can you understand what I mean?" Wei Shinjin was quite depressed. He nodded slightly and said, "I understand, boss. Don't say anything more. Let's go." Shang Yuhua waved her hand and said, "You don't have to go. I'm already full. Father, let's go. Let Master Lin and his friend enjoy the food slowly." "Well, Master Lin, enjoy your meal. I'll leave first." Although Shang Wani was not as enthusiastic as before, he still did the proper etiquette. He stood up and cupped his fists to say goodbye. Then, without waiting for Lin Yi's answer, he left with Shang Yuhua. "Boss, thank you for helping me this time. It seems that I and Shang Yuhua are not fated to be together." "No, it's not fated to be together. Let's just forget about this matter." Wei Shinjin sighed and shook his head unconsciously. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Are you a person who gives up so easily? Or should I say, you actually don't really like Shang Yuhua? Otherwise, why would you give up so easily? Nothing in this world is easy to achieve. The more difficult and dangerous it is, the more precious it is in the end. If you aren't afraid of regretting in the future, then you can give up. But if you really like Shang Yuhua, you better pull yourself together." "Boss, I really like Shang Yuhua." Wei Shinjin suddenly straightened his body and said solemnly. "But then he collapsed again, but she has made it clear that she doesn't want to see me. What should I do?" Chapter 58:15. Wei Shinjin's eyes lit up. He nodded and said, "Boss, you're right. With Shang Yuhua's talent, appearance, and family background, if it was easy to pursue her, she would have been taken back by someone else. I can't give up. As long as I don't give up, there will be a chance. It's good that you can think that way. Come on, hurry up and finish eating. We'll go back first. There will be plenty of opportunities on the way to the northernmost island. There will be a time when you can make Shang Yuhua look at you differently. Lin Yi was also relieved. At least, he managed to appease Wei Shinjin. He didn't completely lose confidence. It's not easy to be a matchmaker. Lin Yi thought of the vow he made when he was the matchmaker for Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing in the secular world. How could he forget it so quickly? Even if he succeeded in matchmaking this time, he definitely couldn't be the host of the wedding anymore. When Lin Yi and Wei Shinjin finished eating, there were fewer people in the small restaurant. The Okuda Dam fleet would only finish loading and unloading the goods tomorrow morning, so they had to wait until tomorrow morning to set off. Lin Yi was thinking if he should go back to the Tiandan Pavilion first. It wouldn't be too late to come back after daybreak. However, there wasn't much time left until daybreak. The goods of the fleet might have finished loading and unloading in advance, so he didn't get off the ship. On the way back to his room, Wei Shinjin was worried and complacent. Lin Yi told him to go back to sleep, lest he got schizophrenia. Remembering that he still owed Ho Guanqi a mountain-gazing pill, Lin Yi went to his room. "Brother Ho, are you resting?" "I'm Lin Yi." Ho Guanqi quickly came to open the door. It seemed that he didn't rest much. "Brother Lin, it's great that you can come to me. Please come in. Originally, I was thinking of going to look for you, but I didn't want to disturb your rest, so I didn't go. Brother Ho, if you need anything, you can find me at any time. Don't be shy." Lin Yi said with a smile and followed Ho Guanqi into his room. After the door was closed and the restrictions on it took effect, Lin Yi took out a jade bottle and said, "Brother Ho, this is a mountain-gazing pill. Take it back and report." "Brother Lin, you've already refined the mountain-gazing pill?" Ho Guanqi said in surprise. At the same time, he eagerly took the jade bottle and opened the bottle cap to have a look. A faint pill fragrance wafted into the air. Ho Guanqi's spirit was instantly shaken, and his cultivation showed signs of loosening. However, he did not dare to smell too much and quickly closed the bottle. The mountain-gazing pill was not something he could use at his current level. If he used it, there would only be disadvantages and no benefits. It's really the mountain-gazing pill, and it's a special grade mountain-gazing pill. Ho Guanqi looked at Lin Yi in amazement. This quality of the mountain-gazing pill was not something that any profound level 1 alchemist could refine. Perhaps even a profound level 2 alchemist could not guarantee that they could refine a special grade mountain-gazing pill. More importantly, how long had it been since Lin Yi obtained the mountain-gazing stone? He was simply a monster in alchemy. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Brother Ho, actually, I refined this mountain-gazing pill using the divine sense pill fire. If possible, I suggest that you also cultivate your divine sense, and then try to condense the divine sense pill fire as soon as possible. In this way, it will be very helpful to your alchemy ability." Ho Guanqi was slightly startled, and then nodded with a dignified expression, "Thank you Lin brothers for reminding me. I will find a way to temper my divine sense. If there is a chance in the future, I will also find some cultivation methods related to divine sense, and strive to condense the divine sense pill fire as soon as possible." When Ho Guanqi, Kai Zhongyang and others failed to condense the divine sense pill fire, he did not pay too much attention to it. Anyway, not having the divine sense pill fire did not affect alchemy. After all, he was still familiar with the various attributes of the true Qi pill fire. But after seeing the special grade mountain-gazing pill refined by Lin Yi using the divine sense pill fire, Ho Guanqi made up his mind to find a way to improve the strength of his divine sense. Not only must he condense the pill fire, but he must also have enough divine sense to support the divine sense pill fire to refine a furnace of pills. Although this was not something that could be achieved in a short period of time, he must first pay attention to it. Lin Yi smiled and said, "If Brother Ho can successfully condense the divine sense pill fire, I believe that with Brother Ho's alchemy level, you will definitely have a major breakthrough. Then I will thank you for your auspicious words." Ho Guanqi smiled and cupped his fists towards Lin Yi. "Since I want to cultivate my divine sense, then I will shamelessly ask Brother Lin for a favor. Brother Ho is too polite. If there is anything you need, just tell me. As long as I can do it, I will absolutely not say no." Lin Yi said solemnly. For Ho Guanqi, he was really grateful, not to mention taking care of the Tiandan Pavilion. Just this time the mountain-gazing stone and the spirit-tempering pill were things he urgently needed. It was simply a great help. Ho Guanqi laughed and said, "Then I will thank Brother Lin in advance. In fact, I have kept all the divine sense grass roots you gave me. As for the mountain-gazing stone, I used my own things to exchange for it. Now I can't condense the divine sense pill fire, so it is impossible to refine the spirit-tempering pill, but if I want to cultivate my divine sense, the spirit-tempering pill is the best thing." So, Lin Yi immediately understood the meaning of Ho Guanqi. He wanted to ask Lin Yi to refine the pill. But this was a trivial matter. Refining the spirit-tempering pill was originally in Lin Yi's plan. Refining it once or twice was not a big deal at all. "Brother Ho, rest assured, I can definitely refine the spirit-tempering pill, just leave this matter to me." Lin Yi smiled slightly and said very straightforwardly. Ho Guanqi was suddenly overjoyed. With Lin Yi refining the mountain-gazing pill, how could he fail to refine the spirit-tempering pill? If he could have 20 or 30 spirit-tempering pills, it was possible for the strength of his divine sense to increase by more than 10 times. Unfortunately, he also knew that this was only a dream. The spirit-tempering pill was not effective. Even if he really had 20 or 30 spirit-tempering pills, the restrictions would not be able to improve his divine sense that much. "Lin brothers, these are the divine sense grass roots you gave me. You can see how many you can refine. The rest will be your reward, and if you successfully refine the spirit-tempering pill, I only need half of it." Ho Guanqi took out the jade box that Lin Yi had given him before. The divine sense grass roots inside had not been moved. There were still as many as before. Although he said half, in fact, Ho Guanqi thought that about 10 or so spirit-tempering pills would be enough for him. He could still exchange them for other heaven and earth treasures. Chapter 58:16. Ho Guanqi was slightly stunned, and then he burst into laughter and said, all right, all right, all right. I misspoke. Since that's the case, then I won't hold back. In the future, Brother Lin, your business is my business. If you have any instructions, I won't refuse. Brother Ho, you're too kind. Tian Chan and Sydney have always been under your care. Don't worry about such a small matter. Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand as he took the jade box from Ho Guanqi's hands. In fact, Lin Yi didn't even want to accept the consciousness grass root. Giving 10 or 20 spirit-tempering pills to Ho Guanqi was a small matter, but Ho Guanqi would be too embarrassed to accept it. Since that was the case, there was no need for the trouble. Brother Ho, last time you said that these consciousness grass roots can be divided into 30 to 40 portions of spirit-tempering pill ingredients, is that right? Lin Yi shook the jade box and smiled at Ho Guanqi. Ho Guanqi nodded. That's right. To be precise, it can be divided into 36 portions of ingredients. Of course, there are always failures when it comes to making pills, but with Brother Lin's ability, I think 20 pills shouldn't be a problem, right? Ha! Brother Ho, aren't you underestimating me a little too much? Lin Yi looked at Ho Guanqi oddly. A normal refiner with a 50% success rate was already pretty good, but Ho Guanqi's Shanong Cauldron and the automated refinement system were heaven-defying existences. A 100% success rate was considered a failure, and exceeding 100% was a normal phenomenon. Ho Guanqi was pleasantly surprised. Could it be that Brother Lin's success rate is quite high? Could it be 90%? This was already Ho Guanqi's bold guess. As for 100% success rate, other than Zhang Liju, no one else on Sky Class Island could achieve that. Lin Yi smiled mysteriously and did not answer Ho Guanqi. His Shinong cauldron was a secret. It was better not to let others know, even if Ho Guanqi was a trustworthy person. Brother Ho, let's not talk about Dan first. In fact, I want to say that these spiritual awareness grassroots are far more than 36 sets of materials. Lin Yi did not open the jade box, but he also knew how many spiritual consciousness grassroots were inside. After all, he had personally placed them inside. Ho Guanqi immediately shook his head and said, "That's impossible. I've measured it myself. In fact, there might not even be 36 pieces. Because it's a whole piece now, it's inevitable that there will be losses when it's divided. Perhaps there will only be 35 pieces in the end." Speaking of this, Ho Guanqi suddenly froze for a moment, and then said with joy, "I understand. Brother Lin, you mean spiritual awareness grassroot? This is spiritual awareness grassroot. Yes, it's good that Brother Ho understands." Lin Yi smiled and stood up. He cupped his fists and said, "Then I'll go back first today. The final number of spirit tempering pills will definitely make Brother Ho satisfied." "Brother Lin, wait a minute. Please tell me, what's the difference between spiritual awareness grassroot and spiritual awareness grass?" Ho Guanqi stood up and asked excitedly. He and Lin Yi were the same as before. They both ignored the fact that spiritual awareness grassroot was better than spiritual awareness grass, so when calculating, they calculated according to the amount of spiritual awareness grass. This was indeed a huge loophole, and it was simply unimaginable for an elixir refiner. It's about a ratio of 1 to 2. In other words, these spiritual awareness grassroots of Brother Ho can theoretically refine 70 spirit tempering pills. Lin Yi didn't mean to hide it, but he also didn't tell the truth. In theory, it could refine 70 pills, but in the Shinong cauldron, at least 80 pills could be refined. It was not convenient to tell Ho Guanqi about this. Ho Guanqi couldn't help but take a deep breath. Of course, he wanted all the spirit tempering pills, but he didn't let this get to his head. If he really did this, even if Lin Yi didn't say anything, he would be embarrassed to face Lin Yi in the future. "Brother Lin, a mountain gazing stone is not worth so many spirit tempering pills. Listen to me, although the grade of the mountain gazing pill is higher than the spirit tempering pill, but in terms of value, a mountain gazing pill and a spirit tempering pill are almost the same. The mountain gazing stone I gave you is only 5 sets of materials. Not to mention that you have already given me a top-grade mountain gazing pill. Even if you didn't give it to me, at most 10 spirit tempering pills are enough to compensate for the mountain gazing stone." Ho Guanqi looked at Lin Yi very seriously and said. He also stopped Lin Yi from refuting. Pointing to the jade box in Lin Yi's hand, he said, "If there are only 30 sets of materials here, and Brother Lin has about 50% success rate, I won't refuse all of them. But with Brother Lin's success rate, and so many sets of materials here, I absolutely can't accept it. Just to refine so many spirit tempering pills, the time required and the consumption of divine sense is extremely shocking. Brother, you can't be so ungrateful." Lin Yi opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. Was he supposed to tell him that he didn't refine pills one by one, but 5 at a time? Also, others might not be able to refine 1 pill in a day or 2, but he could at least refine 8 or 10 batches a day. As for the consumption of divine sense, Lin Yi was not worried at all. When he was at sea, he could casually catch a sea beast and use it to replenish his divine sense. At the same time, he could also get a sea beast's Niden to refine pills. Brother Lin, I appreciate your kindness, but I only need 10 spirit tempering pills, I won't take any more. With 10 spirit tempering pills, I estimate that the strength of my divine sense should be able to greatly improve. As for the rest, you can keep them for your own use. This matter is settled. If you say anything more, then you don't consider me as a friend. Ho Guanqi didn't give Lin Yi a chance to speak, and directly finished his own words. Seeing that Lin Yi seemed to want to say something, Ho Guanqi followed up and said, Brother Lin, do you know the restrictions of spirit tempering pills? Lin Yi was slightly startled, and shook his head. What are the restrictions of spirit tempering pills? I asked Brother Ho to enlighten me, I really haven't heard of it. In fact, I also accidentally saw it in the ancient books. Spirit tempering pills are not always effective, otherwise, these spiritual awareness grassroots can be used to refine dozens of spirit tempering pills. Wouldn't it be able to enhance people's divine sense to an extremely terrifying level? Ho Guanqi pointed to the jade box containing the spiritual awareness grassroots, and felt some regret in his heart. If there were no such restrictions, he might have thickened his face and asked for more spirit tempering pills. Not waiting for Lin Yi to ask, Ho Guanqi continued, the effect of spirit tempering pills on the tempering of divine sense is quite amazing, but unfortunately, in each big level, you can only take one spirit tempering pill, eating more won't have any effect. Only when you enter the next big level, can you take another spirit tempering pill, and the effect will get lower and lower. Chapter 58:17. After entering the gold core stage, a soul tempering pill may be able to improve from the early gold core stage to the middle gold core stage or even the peak of the middle gold core stage, but the effect is definitely weaker than that of the foundation establishment stage. In the future, you can only rely on your own cultivation, and so on. The Heavenly Tao realm and the Magnate realm are at most 8 soul tempering pills. I even asked for 2 more. There was one more thing that Ho Guanqi didn't say, that was, with his aptitude, his strength might not be able to enter the Magnate realm, and the strength of his divine sense would not exceed his own level, so in theory, having 4 soul tempering pills was enough. The rest of the soul tempering pills were mostly useless to him. Lin Yi really didn't know that the soul tempering pill actually had such a limit. He had to send a letter to Tian Chan later. It didn't matter if it was a waste, but he was afraid that there would be any side effects if he ate too much. The next time Lin Yi refined the soul tempering pill, he would also try to take it continuously to see if it was really the case. However, he already believed that what Ho Guanqi said was not false, because the effect of using the divine sense grassroot to temper his divine sense was getting weaker and weaker. It was probably because the share of the soul tempering pill had been used up, and he could only continue to temper his divine sense at the next big level. After understanding that Ho Guanqi was not being polite, Lin Yi shrugged helplessly and said, well, since Brother Ho said that, then let's do it this way. When I refine the soul tempering pill, I will give a few to Brother Kai and Captain Okuda, and say that it was from you. It's up to you. Anyway, it's yours. If you like to give it to others in my name, it has nothing to do with me, as long as I have my share. Ho Guanqi laughed again, and his mood was extremely good. Lin Yi was also happy, thinking about it. It was a small matter anyway. He was too lazy to say more. Well, this time I will really take my leave. When the soul tempering pill is refined, I will send a few over first. Brother Ho can start to temper his divine sense. After he finished speaking, he cupped his fists and left with the jade box. Ho Guanqi quickly walked to the door and bid farewell to Lin Yi. The two of them were diagonally opposite each other, so there was no need to be so polite. Lin Yi didn't return to his room. Instead, he took out a piece of paper and wrote down the restrictions of the spirit-quenching pill on it. He asked the guards here to send it to Tiandan Pavilion and give it to Tian Chan. Who on this warship didn't know Lin Yi, the honorary vice captain? The guard felt very honored to be able to do this for him. He even refused to accept the spirit jades that Lin Yi wanted to give him as thanks. He took the paper and directly ran out. After returning to his room, Lin Yi opened the restriction on the door and prepared to start refining the spirit-quenching pill. Along the way, he could refine a lot of spirit-quenching pills, but he had to give them away, auction them, and use them for himself. If he didn't refine more, it really wouldn't be enough. However, before Lin Yi could take out the Shinnon cauldron, his expression suddenly turned cold. He turned his head and looked at the door. The restriction that had just taken effect had been forcibly destroyed. The various restrictions on the ancient warship were not set up by Okuda Dam later, but they were already there when the warship existed. That was why they could isolate Lin Yi's powerful divine sense. Otherwise, with the current level of divine sense of the Heaven Stage Island, there was no need for such restrictions at all. As for the defensive ability of these restrictions, to be honest, it was not strong. Any master of the mysterious ascending stage could easily break it with brute force. Of course, under normal circumstances, if someone came to find someone, they would just gently touch the restriction to remind the person inside that there was a guest visiting. Forcibly breaking the restriction almost made it clear that the enemy was attacking. Lin Yi's eyes narrowed slightly, and his powerful divine sense rushed out like a tide. Through the broken restriction, he could easily see a middle-aged man with a thin face and a hooked nose reaching out to push the door with a cold face. The next moment, the hooked-nosed man had already flashed in like a ghost. While closing the door, he did not even say a word and directly launched an attack on Lin Yi. A sharp blade-like chi split the air in the room and appeared in front of Lin Yi in an instant. If it was an ordinary master of the mysterious ascending stage, his head might have been directly cut off by this chi. Unfortunately, Lin Yi was not an ordinary person. Although this hooked-nosed man had the strength of the mysterious ascending great perfection, in the eyes of Lin Yi, he was really not a great person. When he was in the early stage of the mysterious ascending stage, he was able to fight against an opponent in the early stage of the mountain opening stage. Now that he was already at the peak of the late stage of the mysterious ascending stage, a mere mysterious ascending great perfection actually dared to come and attack him. Wasn't he just sending himself to death? There was no need for any profound martial arts. Lin Yi just stretched out his hand and the invisible chi was imprisoned in front of him. Then his 5 fingers closed, and there was a slight sound of metal cracking. The metal attribute chi of the hooked-nosed man suddenly dissipated, not even a speck of dust was blown away. Good boy, you have some skills. The hooked-nosed man's pupils shrank slightly, and he snorted in a low voice, unfortunately, you are destined to fall today. Don't make any unnecessary resistance, I will give you a quick death. Before he finished his sentence, the aquiline-nosed man's body flashed, and countless sharp pure energy blades shot out, enveloping Lin Yi completely. If he didn't have a way to deal with it, he'd be riddled with holes in the next moment. Sword shower kill. The hooked-nosed man's mouth showed a smug smile. This was his strongest offensive martial arts. Not to mention the mysterious ascending stage, even if it was a master of the early mountain opening stage, if he was caught off guard and faced this move of his sword shower kill at such a close distance, it was very likely that he would suffer a big loss. The metal attribute chi was originally full of killing intent, and this move of sword shower kill brought this kind of killing intent into full play. He did not believe that Lin Yi could resist this killer move. If it was not for the fact that this was the ancient warship of Okuda Dam, and he had to finish the battle quickly so as not to alarm others, the hooked-nosed man would not have used his strongest offensive martial arts at the beginning. Since he had used it, it was naturally the result of killing in one blow. Lin Yi sneered. His current divine sense was so strong that when the hooked-nosed man used the sword shower kill, all the changes and strengths were actually already grasped by him. If it was a master of the mountain opening stage who used this move, perhaps Lin Yi would also have to temporarily avoid it. Mysterious ascending great circle. It was not enough. A low dragon roar sounded in the room, and the 5 elements of killing intent turned into a dragon shape, baring its fangs and claws to meet the wave of sword chi rain. After the sharp metal attribute chi met the 5 elements of killing intent, it suddenly converged all of its sharpness, like a tempered steel turning soft, all of it surrounded the dragon shape of the 5 elements of killing intent, and there was no longer any threat. Chapter 58:18. At this moment, the aquiline-nosed man's heart was filled with endless regret. He regretted that he did not find out who he was going to deal with before he came. His level was obviously lower than his, but this kind of strength was enough to crush him mercilessly. I can't retreat. If I retreat, I will die. The aquiline-nosed man was already a little scared, but he still said so to himself in his heart. He was extremely experienced in fighting. He knew that his momentum had been completely suppressed by Lin Yi. If he wanted to retreat and escape, it would only become a situation of 1,000 miles. The only way to survive was to face the difficulty. The aquiline-nosed man gritted his teeth and forcibly suppressed the trace of timidity in his heart. He put his hands together and stirred up all the chi in his body. At the same time, at the cost of burning his blood essence and reducing his lifespan, he gained more power in a short period of time. Then he desperately faced the 5-color dragon. All of this happened in an instant. Lin Yi also admired the decisiveness of the aquiline-nosed man. He was able to make the right choice in a flash. Not everyone could do that. Unfortunately, even if he burned his own blood essence, the strength he gained was still above the profound ascension great circle. At most, he could only be considered as half a step into the mountain opening stage. If he wanted to fight against Lin Yi's dragon-shaped 5 elements murderous aura, it was far from enough. There was no loud explosion, nor was there any surging chi. The aquiline-nosed man's desperate counterattack to save himself was like a small stone thrown into the sea. Without causing any waves, it was completely strangled and swallowed by the dragon-shaped 5 elements murderous aura. Then he could only watch in despair as the 5-color dragon rushed into his body, unscrupulously passing through his meridians and destroying them. Lin Yi looked coldly at the aquiline-nosed man. The 5 elements murderous aura, combined with his powerful divine sense, exerted power beyond his imagination. Moreover, he could control it as if it was his own arm, without the slightest sense of sluggishness. The aquiline-nosed man did not die. He just fell to the ground and kept twitching. Lin Yi did not intend to kill him now, at least not before he knew who sent him. Tell me, who sent you? Lin Yi stepped forward slowly and looked down at the hook-nosed man as he asked indifferently. Under Lin Yi's control, the 5 elements murderous chi was slightly restrained so that the hook-nosed man wouldn't even have the ability to speak. The aquiline-nosed man's face was pale as he gasped for breath. His forehead was covered with beads of sweat. In such a short time, his clothes were drenched from the inside out. Hee, you don't have to ask. I'm afraid I'll scare you to death if I tell you. If you have the guts, kill your grandfather. Let's see who will die more miserably in the end. The hook-nosed man was tough and did not say the answer that Lin Yi wanted to know. However, looking at his arrogant appearance, it seemed that he had a strong backing and was not afraid of Lin Yi at all. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Turns out that you're so awesome. It was me who was disrespectful. In fact, it doesn't matter if you say it or not. I just asked you to give you a chance. Since you don't need it, then forget it. Anyway, with the soul-searching technique, I can know what I want to know." The hook-nosed man's expression suddenly changed. He knew how overbearing the soul-searching technique was. If Lin Yi really used the soul-searching technique on him, even if he didn't die, he would most likely be crippled. In this case, it was better to simply die. What's worse was that even if he could commit suicide now, his primordial spirit could not escape the pain brought by the soul-searching technique. It could be said that Lin Yi's words had completely hit this guy's soft spot. He was not afraid of death, but he was really afraid of having his soul searched. In the past, when Lin Yi said that he would use the soul-searching technique on people, it was simply to scare people. But after a trip to the ancient small Jianghu, he learned the method of devouring primordial spirit. Soul-searching technique was just a piece of cake. Even if he had not learned it, he could easily deduce it. So this time, he really wasn't trying to scare the hook-nosed man. The hook-nosed man's expression kept changing. He didn't know if Lin Yi was trying to scare him, but he didn't dare to try. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "You can't use the soul-searching technique on me. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving the Middle Island. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. I'm the Alchemy Hall's guest. You can kill me, but if you dare to use the soul-searching technique on me and cause some secrets of the Alchemy Hall to be leaked, don't mention you, even Ho Guanqi won't have a good ending." Lin Yi frowned slightly. He could feel that the hook-nosed man wasn't lying. The identity of the Alchemy Hall's guest should be true. The consequences of using the soul-searching technique were most likely true. Lin Yi didn't care, but he had to consider Tian Chan and Sydney in the Tiandan Pavilion, as well as Ho Guanqi, Kai Zhongyang, the Will of Heaven, and others who were related to him. With the high status of the Alchemy Hall in the Middle Island, if Lin Yi really used the soul-searching technique on a guest of the Alchemy Hall, even Okuda State wouldn't be able to protect him and the Tiandan Pavilion. Seeing Lin Yi's hesitation, the hook-nosed man finally let out a sigh of relief. If he knew this would be the result, he wouldn't have agreed to find trouble with Lin Yi even if he was beaten to death. But since it was already like this, as long as he didn't die, he would definitely find a way to get back at him. This time, it's my fault. We can be considered to have no discord, no concord. Why don't we just forget about it? The hook-nosed man looked at Lin Yi carefully and asked. It would be great if he could use the name of the Alchemy Hall to scare Lin Yi and escape with his life. It wouldn't be too late to take revenge after planning. Of course, the hook-nosed man also felt that it was impossible to move Lin Yi with just a few words, so he reluctantly took out a small jade box from his arms and said with pain, "As long as you promise not to mention this matter, then this mountain-gazing stone will be given to you as compensation." Mountain-gazing stone. Lin Yi was really a little surprised this time. Why was the mountain-gazing stone so common? Could it be obtained so easily? If he knew that he could get the mountain-gazing stone this way, he wouldn't have needed to exchange it with Ho Guanqi. However, thinking that this hook-nosed man was at the Mystic Ascension Great Perfection and was about to break through to the mountain opening stage, it was reasonable for him to collect the mountain-gazing stone. He was a guest of the Alchemy Hall. As long as he had something, it was basically no problem to ask the people of the Alchemy Hall to refine elixirs. The problem was that there were not many people in the Alchemy Hall who could refine the mountain-gazing pill, so he kept the mountain-gazing stone and didn't use it. This time, the hook-nosed man was also distressed to exchange it for his life. However, he thought that after killing Lin Yi in the future, he could still get the thing back, so he calmed down. Chapter 58-19. Lin Yi closed the jade box and said with a faint smile, "This is my spoil of war, so I will accept it." The hook-nosed man's face suddenly turned ugly. Lin Yi was not going to let him go after taking his things. However, he could not say anything else, because Lin Yi was right. His life was in the hands of others, so naturally, the things on him were not his own. Lin Yi was reminded by the hook-nosed man, so he simply used his divine sense to scan the guy's clothes to see if there were any other good things. Unfortunately, other than some spiritual jades, there was nothing else to rob. It should be that the hook-nosed man did not bring everything with him, and only kept the most important mountain-gazing stone close to him. In the end, Lin Yi took advantage of it. With a mountain-gazing stone as a reward, Lin Yi was already quite satisfied. It did not matter if there was nothing else. With a wave of his hand, he used his spiritual chi to lift the hook-nosed man in the air and said coldly, "You said that you are a consecrator of the pill hall, so there must be a lot of people who know you, right? Since you dare to come and kill me, then let everyone see whether you are really that awesome and whether the pill hall will really stand up for you. What do you want?" The hook-nosed man could not care less about his mountain-gazing stone. After hearing Lin Yi's words, he had an extremely bad guess in his heart, and his expression immediately changed. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, "You will know soon what I want to do." After saying that, Lin Yi directly carried the hook-nosed man out of the room. From the time this guy broke the restriction and broke into the room to launch a sneak attack until now, only a little more than a minute had passed. The alarm of the restriction being damaged had been sent to the control room of the ancient worship, and it was estimated that it had just been sent to Okuda Dam. As for the rooms on the side, whether it was Wei Xinjin's, Ho Guanqi's, or Kai Zhongyang's, because the restriction of their rooms had not been touched, they still did not know that such a thing had happened in Lin Yi's room. If the hook-nosed man's target was not Lin Yi, it was estimated that this guy would have already left the ancient worship. This kind of defense really made Lin Yi a little dissatisfied, so he had to find a chance to mention it to Okuda Dam. Of course, there was originally a guard here, but he was sent by Lin Yi to run errands. This guy could be considered lucky. Otherwise, if the hook-nosed man entered Lin Yi's room, he would have conveniently killed him. After walking out of the room, Lin Yi released his divine sense and touched all the restrictions on the ancient worship. Since he wanted to make a big scene, it would be too boring if there were too few people. Someone ambushed us in the VIP rooms of the ancient worship, and we've already caught him. If you're interested, you can come up to the deck and see if you know the assassin. Lin Yi used his pure chi to cover his voice, sending it to all the corridors. This time, he had made up his mind to kill the chicken to warn the monkey. So what if it was a priest from the Hall of Elixirs? Lin Yi wanted everyone in Central Island to know that the people of Tiandan Pavilion were not to be messed with. Even if it was a priest from the Hall of Elixirs, there was nothing much to say. As long as he didn't search the hook-nosed man's soul, Lin Yi was in the right. He didn't believe that the Hall of Elixirs would fall out with him because of this. If that really happened, then Lin Yi would be disappointed in his cheap master, Zhang Liju. Ho Guanqi was the first to come out. He had sent Lin Yi off not long ago, and was thinking about the spirit-tempering pill when he felt the restriction on the door being touched. He thought that Lin Yi had come back because of something, so he quickly opened the door and saw Lin Yi carrying the hook-nosed man towards the deck. Of course, what Lin Yi said made Ho Guanqi understand what was going on. The problem was that he really did know that hook-nosed man. "Brother Lin. Brother Lin." Ho Guanqi called twice and caught up to Lin Yi. He looked at the hook-nosed man in Lin Yi's hand in surprise. "Priest, sure, you went to Brother Lin's room and ambushed him?" Lin Yi wasn't surprised that Ho Guanqi knew this hook-nosed man. He just confirmed what the guy had said, that he really was a priest from the Hall of Elixirs. "Brother Ho, you know this guy. He's called Shi Jun, right?" Lin Yi didn't stop and continued walking towards the deck. Ho Guanqi felt like he was in a difficult position. One was Lin Yi, whom he had tried his best to befriend, and the other was a priest from the Hall of Elixirs. It wasn't appropriate to help either side. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have come out. "Brother Lin, how are you going to deal with Priest Shi?" It couldn't be helped. Since he had already come out, Ho Guanqi could only force himself to ask. No matter what, he had to ensure that Lin Yi wouldn't get into more trouble first. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "This priest sure wants to kill me, but I don't know him. I asked him who sent him, but he wasn't willing to say. Since that's the case, don't blame me for killing him as an example to others. I want everyone to know that the people of Tiandan Pavilion can't be easily bullied. If they dare to make a move on us, they should be prepared to be killed instead." Ho Guanqi couldn't help but secretly complain. Although Lin Yi's tone was light, the murderous intent in it could directly make people shiver. Although Lin Yi was the reasonable one, if he really killed Shi Jun, the rift between him and the Hall of Elixirs wouldn't be easily repaired. Shi Jun wanted Ho Guanqi to say a few good words for him, but it was a pity that Lin Yi's 5 elements murderous intent was still raging in his body. Under Lin Yi's intentional control, he couldn't speak at all. "Brother Lin, I'm not trying to persuade you, but it's best if you think twice about this. This Shi Jun was sent by the Hall of Elixirs to protect Master Li Xiaoyi, but I heard that he's already on House Shang's side." Ho Guanqi said bitterly. Being able to say this much was already the limit. If he continued, not only would there be a rift between Lin Yi and the Hall of Elixirs, there would also be a rift between him and Lin Yi. Kai Zhongyang and Wei Xinjin also quickly followed, but Ho Guanqi didn't expect them to say anything. One was a follower of Lin Yi, and although the other was Zhang Liju's disciple, he didn't have much connection with the Hall of Elixirs. If they wanted to help, they would definitely help Lin Yi. As expected, after knowing the situation, Kai Zhongyang didn't say anything beneficial to Shi Jun. Wei Xinjin even directly said that this kind of person should be killed on the spot. Chapter 58-20. Lin Yi casually threw Shi Jun on the ground, then said with a faint smile, "Brother Okuda, this matter can't be blamed on you. If he had the intention to sneak attack, you couldn't have defended either. If it were sailing on the sea, the ancient warship would naturally have a layer of shielding. If outsiders wanted to board, they would immediately be aware. But now, it was anchored in the harbor, and there were still people boarding or leaving. It was impossible for Okuda to completely block it. Hence, such a loophole appeared. Okuda said with a smile, "Fortunately, Brother Lin, you're fine. Otherwise, even if I cut that bastard into 1,000 pieces, it won't be able to dispel the hatred in my heart." After saying that, Okuda turned his attention to Shi Jun. The smile on his face also vanished. He swept a cold glance at Shi Jun and said, "You're considered bold, daring to come to my ship alone to kill my brother. This is not putting me in your eyes at all. Do you think that I, Okuda, can be bullied by others after leaving the Okuda family?" Shi Jun's body trembled, and regret grew in his heart. He thought that he could kill Lin Yi in one blow, completely not giving Okuda time to react. That was why he came. He didn't expect that the one killed in one blow was himself. Now that he was facing Okuda directly, it would be a lie to say that he wasn't afraid. Although Okuda did run away from the Okuda family, he never said that he severed ties with the Okuda family. After all, he was the Okuda family's 3rd young master. To say that Nakajima didn't fear the Pill Hall's forces, the Okuda family was definitely one of them. He, a mere consecrator, really couldn't be compared to Okuda. "Brother Lin, do you know who this guy is?" Okuda also didn't know if he really didn't know Shi Jun. He turned his head and asked Lin Yi. Lin Yi nodded and said, "I heard that he's the Pill Hall's consecrator, Shi Jun." Okuda sneered and said, "Pill Hall's consecrator, what a great background. Brother Lin, if it's not convenient for you to make a move, then let me take care of this guy for you." Elixir was a giant in Nakajima, after all. Even if Lin Yi was in the right, he'd still have to think twice before making a move. Okuda Ba, on the other hand, was different. Even if he didn't have the Okuda family behind him, just his own capital alone was enough for him to have nothing to fear from Elixir. Lin Yi smiled and said, "Thank you, Okuda bro, I'll take care of this myself." Lin Yi said and smiled and said, "Okuda Ba's Lin said, I will take care of this June." Ba nod. Brother Yi, Lin Yi knew that this was probably just an expression of goodwill, but he was still very grateful. He smiled and cupped his fists in thanks. To be able to stand by his side so firmly in a situation like this, he was a friend worth having no matter what. In the time it took to say a few words, more and more people came to the deck. Among them were Jing Dongjue, Li Xiaoyi, and other people from the pill hole. "How dare you, Lin Yi? How dare you kidnap our consecrator? How dare you?" Jing Dongjue took a step forward and pointed at Lin Yi with a furious expression, but he didn't dare to go any further. What if he got too close to Lin Yi and got smashed to the ground as well? Lin Yi looked at Jing Dongjue coldly and said, "Jing Dongjue, you didn't send this June, did you? The consecrator of the pill hall can be used by the vice hall master. Otherwise, why would you be so agitated?" Jing Dongjue glared and said, "Nonsense. You're slandering me. How could our consecrator do something like this? It must be you who wanted to deal with consecrator sure. That's why you framed him. Heh, you can always find a way to frame someone. Lin Yi, I advise you to rein in before it's too late. Otherwise, the pill hall won't let you off." Ho Guanqi couldn't resist saying, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, you don't know what happened. How can you be sure that it was Lin Yi who framed him? Furthermore, he and Consecrator sure have no enmity in the past. They've never crossed paths before. Why is there a need to plot against Consecrator sure? Ho Guanqi, you're a member of the Pill Hall and the Hall Master's nominal eldest disciple. Not only did you not contribute to the Pill Hall, you even defended the Pill Hall's enemy. Could it be that you and Lin Yi colluded with each other and deliberately targeted Consecrator Shi? Jing Dongjue immediately dragged Ho Guanqi into the water with a cold smile. Didn't you say that Lin Yi and Shi Jun didn't cross paths? Then you, Ho Guanqi, and Shi Jun must have crossed paths, right? Ho Guanqi, this honest man, had never suffered such humiliation before. He was so angry that he couldn't speak. He couldn't refute anything. Lin Yi looked at Jing Dongjue mockingly and said, "Surnamed Sheng, I wasn't sure at first. Seeing you biting people like a mad dog, I'm relieved. You were the one who ordered Shi Jun to assassinate me. There's no doubt about that. Don't talk to me about evidence. I don't need any evidence for what I'm sure of. Lin Yi, who do you think you are? You want to use such a groundless excuse to deal with me, Jing Dongjue? Hee. If you want to come at me, just come at me. What's the point of involving the unrelated Consecrator Shi? Hi, Jing Dongjue won't be as despicable as you, using such a boring excuse to frame innocent people." Jing Dongjue felt a little guilty in his heart, but he definitely wouldn't back down on the surface. Unfortunately, his words were no longer as strong as before. Li Xiaoyi frowned slightly and said faintly, "Stop arguing. Is there any misunderstanding? Let's get to the bottom of the matter first." Lin Yi glanced at Li Xiaoyi and said indifferently, "Shi Jun forcibly broke the restriction of my room, broke into my room, and tried to kill me. What misunderstanding can there be? The consecrator of the Pill Hall can be so lawless and kill people at will. Does he really think that Pill God Zhang isn't here, and Middle Island is under Jing Dongjue's control?" Jing Dongjue's face was extremely ugly, but for some reason, he didn't refute. Li Xiaoyi looked at Lin Yi with a strange expression, nodded slightly, and stopped talking. Lin Yi was a little confused. This girl was really strange. She said something inexplicably and then stopped talking. Was this considered her responsibility as the chief alchemist of the pill hole? Li Xiaoyi didn't say anything anymore, and Jing Dongjue stood up again, but this time he pointed his spear at Okuda Dam. Captain Okuda, Lin Yi is holding our Dan's master hostage on your ship. Don't you have anything to say? Isn't this looking down on our pill hole too much? Okuda Ba didn't even look up. He said coldly, who do you think you are? A person who helps Pill God Zhang manage the pill hole dares to represent the entire pill hole. Whether or not Lin Yi held Shi Jun hostage wasn't up to you to decide, but whether or not Shi Jun broke the lock on my ship and killed my brothers, that was up to me to decide. Trying to act mighty on my ship, who gave you face? Chapter 58-21. It couldn't be helped. Okuda Ba had a super family behind him. The entire Hall of Alchemy was at most on the same level as his family. Although Jing Dongjue was a deputy hall master, he couldn't represent the entire Hall of Alchemy. Seeing this, Jing Tianqing pointed at Okuda Ba and sneered, Captain Okuda, are you trying to protect Lin Yi by talking about my uncle like that? Don't think that you're so great just because you have the Okuda family behind you. Although our Jing family isn't as powerful as your Okuda family, but my ass. Do you have the right to speak on my Okuda Dam ship? Who do you think you are? How dare you point your finger at me? Do you want to die? Okuda Ba slapped Jing Tianqing's finger away. What the hell? Did he really think that he was a big shot? Okuda Ba didn't even put Jing Dongjue in his eyes. The fact that he didn't slap this idiot to death was already considering that he was a businessman. You! Jing Tianqing was furious. He was a genius from the East Continent. Especially in front of Li Xiaoyi, Okuda Ba taught him a lesson so mercilessly. He almost lost his temper. Unfortunately, the guards on the ship instantly surrounded him, causing Jing Tianqing to completely calm down. On this ancient battleship, it was simply too unwise to challenge Okuda Dam. Jing Tianqing could only swallow his anger and wait for an opportunity to take revenge in the future. Lin Yi waved his hand at Okuda Ba and said with a smile, Brother Okuda, I told you to let me handle this myself. You don't have to care about these clowns. Since everyone is here, I won't waste any more of your time. Today, I, Lin Yi, will tell everyone here that whoever provokes me, no matter where he comes from, as long as he falls into my hands, there's only one ending, death. At the end, Lin Yi's tone was as cold as ice. His cold eyes scanned the entire place, and people like Shang Wani who had interacted with Lin Yi before felt their hearts skip a beat. They really didn't feel that Lin Yi had this kind of aura. Only now did they realize that he wasn't a simple person. Jing Dongjue panicked. Shi Jun was indeed on his side in the dark, but he couldn't bring this out in the open. If a practitioner from the pill hall was killed just like that, no matter what, Zhang Liju would investigate it when he came back. Some things would naturally surface, and this was something that Jing Dongjue couldn't allow. Lin Yi, do you really want to be the enemy of the Hall of Alchemy? If you dare kill Master Shi, you'll have to face the wrath of our Hall Master Zhang Liju. Are you sure you and your friends can handle it? Jing Dongjue barked. No matter what, he couldn't let Lin Yi kill Shi Jun. For this, he even brought up Zhang Liju's name. It was sad to think about it. Jing Dongjue wanted to take the Hall of Alchemy from Zhang Liju's hands, but he still needed Zhang Liju's reputation to control the situation. Even if he could get the Hall of Alchemy, would it be his Hall of Alchemy? Lin Yi laughed mockingly. Jing Dongjue, can't you change your words? You keep saying the same thing over and over again. Without alchemy god Zhang's name, can't you live? Also, Okuda bro already said it, who do you think you are? You're just a steward who manages the Hall of Alchemy. Do you really think you're the master of the Hall of Alchemy? You're representing the Hall of Alchemy, representing alchemy god Zhang. What a joke. Low snickers could be heard from the crowd, evidently thinking that Lin Yi's words made sense. Most of the people here were people with high statuses in Nakajima, and laughing was just laughing. No one was afraid of Jing Dongjue, the vice head of the Hall of Alchemy. Li Xiaoyi still had that weird expression on her face. She looked up at Jing Dongjue, then turned to Lin Yi, but didn't say anything. Okuda Ba, are you going to care about this or not? Do you really think you can stay out of this when a master of alchemy was killed on your ship? Could it be that Lin Yi is your VIP, but our Hall of Alchemy isn't? Do you still want to do business in the seas of the 5 major islands? Jing Dongjue turned his head and shouted at Okuda Ba. He was already a little flustered and didn't see Tong Wulsuo, who had followed him on the ship, winking at him. Okuda Ba frowned slightly. He could ignore the Hall of Alchemy and Jing Dongjue, but he couldn't ignore his own reputation. Lin Yi was right in this matter, but if he didn't do anything, it wouldn't be justifiable, and it would be detrimental to the future construction of the fleet. However, in a flash, Okuda Ba made a decision, and that was to stand firmly on Lin Yi's side. Jing Dongjue, I don't need you to tell me what happened on my ship. Shi Jun broke the restriction and attacked Lin Yi, so he should be killed on the spot after being captured. Don't tell me that they're all VIPs. If they were all VIPs like you, I really wouldn't dare to accept your business. Okuda Ba said indifferently. Jing Dongjue was right about one thing, he was also a VIP on this ship, so Okuda Ba restrained his tone a little. Jing Dongjue laughed and said, Okuda Ba, don't talk about these useless things. I'll tell you directly, if you continue to side with Lin Yi and disregard the lives of our Hall of Alchemy, I will immediately go to the Maritime Association to impeach you. Don't forget, our Hall of Alchemy is also a VIP member of the Maritime Association. I don't believe that no one can control you. Okuda Ba's face was as calm as water. If he wanted to make a name for himself in this sea, he had to accept the jurisdiction of the Maritime Association. Unless he didn't do legitimate business and became a pirate, he couldn't ignore this matter. Okuda Ba really didn't care about Jing Dongjue. He also believed that the Hall of Alchemy wouldn't go all out to deal with him. However, with Jing Dongjue's character, it was really possible that he would go to the Maritime Association to complain and impeach him, which put him in a very difficult position. Lin Yi also saw Okuda Ba's difficulty. Of course, he wouldn't let his friend fall into a dilemma, so he simply said, Brother Okuda, Shi Jun is actually not that important. After all, he's just a pawn. I will find the person behind him, so it doesn't matter if you don't kill him. Okuda Ba was obviously relieved. He also knew that Lin Yi was taking care of his face, so he said with a smile, Brother Lin, you are broad-minded. There's really no need to care about this scoundrel. Don't worry, after this trip, I will definitely help you get justice. Chapter 58-22. For a man who could dominate the sea, being soft-hearted was definitely not a virtue, but being ruthless. Jing Dongjue's body trembled slightly, and he felt a little regretful. Not only did he not kill Lin Yi this time, but he also completely offended Okuda Ba. If he thought about it carefully, it was really a big loss. Fortunately, Lin Yi finally relented and did not continue to say that he must kill Shi Jun. In this round, Jing Dongjue won, and Lin Yi was slapped in the face by his own words. This was the only consolation. Thank you, Brother Okuda. However, I have my own plans for this matter. You don't have to worry about it, Brother Okuda. Lin Yi smiled faintly, and then with the tip of his foot, he kicked Shi Jun. At the same time, he displayed the invisible and silent soul hook hand, and directly imprisoned Shijun as primordial spirit in the space of the jade pendant. Since he said that he wanted him dead, then he would definitely die. And his death would be even more miserable than before. Out of respect for my brother Okuda, I've already returned him to you. I won't hold the matter of the Stone Army's sneak attack against me for now. However, I'm warning you, if you provoke me again, no one will be able to save you. Lin Yi said coldly to Jing Dongjue and the others, including Li Xiaoyi. This girl was weird, and she always hung out with that idiot Jing Tianqing. Of course, he did not have a good impression of her. Jing Dongjue snorted. Although he saved Shijun, he did not feel proud of his victory. This time, he was reckless. He wanted to use Shijunto to get rid of Lin Yi, but he did not expect that Lin Yi was so strong that he could easily get rid of Shijun. Tong Wulsuo, who was in the crowd, secretly shook his head. It was true that Jing Dongjue was his master, but it was really hard to follow a master who liked to mess around. What did he do? He clearly said not to provoke Lin Yi, but in the next moment, he sent someone to assassinate him. It would have been fine if it had succeeded, but it just had to fail. However, Tong Wulsuo also knew that this sudden action was most likely because Jing Tianqing had suffered a loss in the hands of Lin Yi, so he instigated Jing Dongjue to make a move. He probably couldn't bring himself to do it. Tong Wulsuo could only comfort himself in this manner. At the very least, he managed to figure out some of Lin Yi's strength through this operation, so it was not as if he did not gain anything at all. Just as he was thinking about this, Jing Dongjue suddenly roared, "Lin Yi, what did you do to Shijun? Why isn't there any movement from him?" His soul had been taken away by the soul-reaping hand, so it would be strange if he could still move. Although Shijun was still alive, he was no different from a corpse. He would completely rot away after a while. Lin Yi sneered in his heart and said calmly, "What did I do?" "Jing Dongjue, are you looking for trouble? If you want to find trouble, just say it. I will take it all. Don't find such a poor excuse." Jing Dongjue was suddenly speechless. He did not have any evidence to prove that Lin Yi had done something to Shijun, but even a fool would know that something had happened to Shijun. It was definitely Lin Yi's doing. However, unless there was evidence, it would be useless to say anything else. Lin Yi looked at Shijun and sneered, "Does this guy have some hidden disease? Otherwise, he wouldn't have suddenly become like this, right? Jing Dongjue, you saw it too. I didn't do anything to him, but he suddenly became a fool. Don't blame me." Jing Dongjue glared at Lin Yi fiercely. He knew that he could not gain any advantage in a verbal argument, so he simply ignored Lin Yi and quickly gave Shijun a detailed examination. It was a pity that there was nothing wrong with Shijun's body except for some trivial injuries. The murderous aura of the 5 elements had been eliminated by Lin Yi, so there was no abnormality in his meridians. As the chief alchemist of the Pill Hall, Li Xiaoyi naturally knew about medicine. Jing Dongjue couldn't find any problems, so she went forward to check. "Hey, this situation seems to be a case of soullessness. Is it because he lost his soul?" Li Xiaoyi said in a low voice, slightly surprised. Then she looked up at Lin Yi, hoping to see some clues from Lin Yi's face. Unfortunately, she did not get what she wanted. "Master Li Xiao, can you find a way to treat Shijun?" Jing Dongjue looked at Li Xiaoyi with hope. He couldn't see any problem with Shijun at all, but Li Xiaoyi found it all at once. Of course, he pinned all his hopes on the chief alchemist of the Pill Hall. Li Xiaoyi stood up and shook her head slightly. "This is not something that can be cured by any elixir. I don't have a way. Maybe he will wake up in a few days. If that doesn't work, Deputy Hall Master Jing can bid for the Spirit Gathering branch in this auction and give it to High Official Sure." It might be able to help him regain consciousness. Lin Yi had been paying attention to the situation here. Naturally, he heard Li Xiaoyi's words. He had a whole new level of respect for this strange girl. Unfortunately, she didn't know the function of the soul-hooking hand. Shi Jun's soul was completely imprisoned by Lin Yi. Not to mention the God-gathering branch, even a God-gathering tree would be useless. Thinking of this, Lin Yi couldn't help but shiver. If Han Jingjing's soul was also imprisoned by someone or some force, even if he obtained the God-gathering branch, would it be possible to wake Han Jingjing up? Okay, everyone, please leave. I will send more guards to guard the aisles of the distinguished guests. I will never let this kind of thing happen again. This is my guarantee, everyone, please rest assured. Okuda Ba didn't know about Lin Yi's worries. On the surface, Shi Jun's attack had come to an end, so he began to evacuate the people on the deck. After a while, the sky would brighten, and the loading and unloading of the other 4 treasure ships would be almost completed. The fleet would soon be able to set sail. As long as they left the port and the ancient battleship raised the barrier, his control of the entire battleship would reach its peak. He wouldn't have to worry about any more tricks from Middle Island Pillhole. After the people on the deck heard Okuda Ba's words, they began to disperse in 2s and 3s. However, before they left, the way they looked at Lin Yi was completely different. Although Lin Yi said he would kill Shi Jun, he didn't really kill him in the end. However, anyone with a discerning eye could see that it didn't matter whether Shi Jun was killed or not. Even if he was still alive, he was no different from a dead man. After Li Xiaoyi expressed her opinion, she didn't intend to speak again. Finally, she looked at Lin Yi and simply turned to leave. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.